line 020-444-7033 or 0549-986-996, and we'll be happy to share your views with the rest of the world. Three key issues we have on our plate. One, the Boku Mediation Committee, chaired by the Asante-Hene, or mediation process led by the Asante-Hene Ostumfuo Setutu II, presented its reports. We're asking, how do we ensure that recommendations in this report are implemented? We have to chart a path to lasting peace. The report is being accepted and adopted by the government. A 1 billion revitalization fund is being set up for this purpose to be disbursed in 3 years. Boku must be brought to the state where it can compete with similar towns. That part of the country has been embroiled in ethnic conflicts for many, many decades. Now that it all appears over, how do we proceed? What must we do as a people to ensure that the matters do not, or we do not relapse, the matters do not degenerate, and that it will be the way forward as the committee's report has recommended? We will look at that discussion briefly this morning with some key experts in this arena. After that, we will look at the issue about mining and galamsey. It never appears to be going away, but some victory was chalked earlier in the week where the LI 2462, that troublesome LI, was finally repealed. And so the repeal of the law which allows mining in forest reserves, is this a real commitment or mere window dressing in the fight against galamsey, we ask? Does the fact that the law is being repealed mean that everything will automatically go back to normal in the state we expect? What can we do to ensure that the repeal of the law brings real meaning to people and to the environment? Also, still in the same space, we'll look at the saga of the lithium agreement. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources tabled a new or a revised agreement before Parliament rose. Is this a better deal for Ghana, or it is worse than before? The one that was laid earlier had some concerns about royalty, why it was reduced to 5% instead of 10%. In the previous one laid before, Parliament could not consider it before the life of that Parliament ran out. Why should royalties, which was 10% before, be 5% now? And a few other technical issues that people have matters with. Have all of these matters been addressed? We will look at that. The world is moving towards green minerals, and lithium is one of them. If you know about electric vehicles and the quest of the world to transition, you can understand how important lithium is. And Ghana, as always, is blessed to have this in our earth. And how are we managing it? Are we benefiting from it? Or are we going to ensure that we derive the maximum benefit, or we leave it to the investors and others to carry it away as we've done for gold and even oil? That is our discussion this morning. I'll take a short break. I'll return. I'll provide you some updates, introduce my guests, and then we'll get a discussion underway. This is The Big Issue. You're welcome.
Meet James. James has been searching for happiness for years. So we asked locals to point him to the source of their happiness. Until one fateful night, when his search finally came to an abrupt end. Find your happy place with GoTV. Get GoTV to enjoy a wide range of shows for the whole family. GoTV. Love it.
My name is Anita Erskine, and on December 19th and 20th, right here in Accra, Ghana, we will gather for the Diaspora Summit 2025, a defining moment in strengthening the bond between Ghana and her global family. Under the theme Resetting Ghana, the Diaspora as the 17th Region, this summit, hosted by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, will bring together leaders and experts from around the world to advance partnerships, explore reparations and heritage linkages, and of course, mobilize diaspora talent for national development. I invite you to be part of this powerful conversation shaping Ghana and the diaspora's future. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center, December 19th and 20th. Do register at www.diasporasummitghana.org. See you there.
Yeah, welcome back. This is The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. We are on Channel 1 Television. We are also on YouTube. We are happy to have you join us on 020-444-7033 or 0549-986-996. Those numbers have been displayed on your screen. We'll be happy to hear you on any of the issues we are about to discuss. 3 issues we're looking at. The Boku mediation report has been presented. Government has accepted and adopted the report, set up a 1 billion revitalization fund for the Boku area to bring the place up economically so it can compete and it can do well. A number of things were mentioned in the report by Otumfuo. The government has accepted that, and that means the government will take steps to ensure a smooth implementation of the report. All of that has been, the report and the matters have been decided now. It is the implementation and reconciliation that we expect. How should the parties behave? How should government position itself? Civil society and people in the security space, what should they do as well? And you and I, what should we be doing to encourage the people in the area to continue to embrace peace? Also, the LI 2462 has finally been repealed. What does that mean for the fight against Galamsey and the protection of our forest reserves? This is some victory, but is this enough to make us rest on our oars, or it is just the beginning of another part of the fight against Galamsey? Now, it's mining in forest reserves is totally outlawed, and we hope that our water bodies will begin to breathe properly and get cleared up. Also, the lithium agreement has been taken back to Parliament. A few things have been tweaked here and there. There were initial discussions about why the royalties in there was reduced from 10% in the previous one to 5%. Civil society organizations were up in arms against government about what they think about it, and they say that the agreement doesn't put Ghana in a good light. It doesn't appear to be giving Ghana good value for money. We will look at all of that and see if the new one laid before Parliament is taking care of all of these. Now, let me provide you some updates. Government of Ghana has announced a 1 billion cedi Boku revitalization fund to drive post-conflict reconstruction and development in the Boku area of the Upper East region. The initiative follows the endorsement of the Boku conflict mediation report presented by His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Setitu Asantehene. This was announced in a statement signed by the Minister of State in charge of Government Communications, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, on Wednesday, December 17, 2025. The fund, to be disbursed over 3 years from 2026 to 2028, will target critical infrastructure and socioeconomic recovery projects, including roads, healthcare, and educational facilities, among others. President John Mahama has directed that the fund be managed by a high-level committee chaired by the Finance Minister, Kesel Atuba Forcing. Meanwhile, Otumfuo Setitu II has recommended the strict enforcement of Ghana's existing laws recognizing Asigri Abugrago Azoka II as a lawful Bokunaba as the most critical step towards restoring lasting peace in Boku and the wider Kusasi traditional area. In his mediation report on the protracted Boku conflict, as read during the presentation to government at the Jubilee House, the Otumfuo stated that no chief or traditional authority stands above the constitution and the decisions of the court. Let's hear him, Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, speak.
Unfortunately, the law as it stands now makes Asigri Aburagu Asoka the lawful chief of Boku, and so it is impossible legally to do any such thing in this mediation exercise. On the question of Boku town, I have taken the position that the established tradition since 1931 thereabout is that the person who is Boku Naba has the entire Kusasi area. By law and the declarations of the Supreme Court of Ghana, Asugri Abugrago Azoka is a Boku Naba, and there cannot be any rival residing in Boku claiming otherwise. I have impressed upon my brother the Nairi to accept that recognition by law in appreciation of the enduring brotherhood that has existed between our two kingdoms in order to ensure lasting peace and eliminate the national and international security threats that my brother himself is so concerned about. I have been candid with my brother the Nairi that the purported enskinment of Mr. Seydou Abagari as Boku Naba cannot stand.
Yes, so that's Otumfuo at the report presentation ceremony at the Jubilee House. After the presentation, the President, John Dramani Mahama, had a few words to say. Let's hear him.
The end of this mediation gives us the opportunity to see what the way forward is in terms of bringing peace and calm. Boku has the potential to be one of the most vibrant commercial centers in our country, and indeed it has been a center of trade. And a lot of people in Boku have prospered, whether they are Mamprusis or they are Kusasis. Unfortunately, this conflict has turned the fortunes of Boku. Teachers refuse to be posted there, doctors refuse to be posted there, civil servants are leaving, we're doing national service postings, and we have suspended posting national service men and women to Boku because we cannot guarantee their safety. And so I'm pleased that Otumfuo's mediation has come to an end and that he has presented a report, and I can assure him that government would look at this report, and within the next 24 hours, government will issue a statement.
So that was President John Dramani Mahama speaking at the ceremony where Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu presented the Boku mediation reports to him. Now, the first part of this discussion, we have Richard Kumado, who is a security analyst, join us. Albert Yel-Yang, who is the national coordinator for WANEP, also join us. And we'll have Frank Boza, who is head of conflict management and resolution at the National Peace Council, also join us. Gentlemen, good morning. You're welcome to the program. Let me start with Richard. Richard, this should be refreshing that finally, after decades of conflict, ethnic conflict in Boku, which before used to be a very vibrant economic township, finally, report has been submitted, presidency or government is accepted and adopted a report and set up a 1 billion revitalization fund. This should be refreshing, at least, that the report has been presented and some conclusion is being brought to the process.
Samuel, good morning. You don't want me to send you an invoice, so instead of saying I'm a consultant, you say I'm an analyst.
Sorry, Richard Kumado is a security consultant, yes, and we will talk to him every now and then when matters like this come up. Yes, Richard.
The issue of Boku has been of major concern to many persons, both home and abroad, because of the nature of devastation and how vibrant Boku has been economically. So for me, having presented the report, I know we are close to where we want to be. Then again, if you look at the report did just three things. One, there was only one recommendation to Ghana government, Then number two, Ashanti asked for space for reconciliation. And in the course of the reconciliation, he promised to buy back all the arms he saw at Boko to Ghana government at no cost. Then thirdly and lastly, what he did is to caution politicians in general that they should be mindful of what they say in relation to the Boko conflict. So it was a beautiful presentation. The second point I want to make to that effect is that now we have the letter from Ghana government with the institution or asking finance minister to put a 1 billion Ghana cedis, which people said is about $87 million. I think if you're able to use this money and do the various things they wanted to do with the money in terms of school, in terms of health, in terms of security posts, and in terms of economic activities, it will go a long way to boost the economic activities of the area, and indigenous of Boko far and near are going to benefit. But then again, you could realize that government has issued their report supporting everything Ashanti did. Our uncles from the Mapusi side have also issued a report. Our uncles from the Kusasi side have also issued a report. Then Ashanti mediation report. If you put all the four reports together, from security management point of view, knowing very well that after mediation, the next line should be reconciliation because people might have been hurt and people might have said things they are not supposed to say. I think we are very much ready for the mediation, and all other issues that has been raised or will be raised will all be tabled at the reconciliation table at Mensha. So Salam, that is where we are.
I see. Yes, it's a very delicate matter. What, in your view, should the parties be doing? We've seen a statement from the Bokunaba acknowledging the recommendations and the report of Otumfuo and more or less extending an olive branch to the other side. What should we be doing to ensure that this delicate or fragile situation is not, the situation that is fragile is made to settle properly?
Okay, so there are three things involved. For the parties, to the extent that they agree to go to mediation, it's my hope and prayer that they will agree to go to reconciliation. So whatever concerns they have and whatever issues they might have raised directly in their issue statement, the ones that they have not yet raised will all be tabled at the mediation. For the media and for all of us who comment on national issues, particularly on the Boko conflict, there's the need to be circumspect, and we use high levels of discretion so that we do not create problems for the parties involved. Then on the part of Ghana government, the only recommendation given to them, they would need to have the courage and the boldness to enforce the recommendation. And it's also a way of maintaining law and order within the place largely. And that's just only one recommendation. Having read the government's report, I saw that they are ready to enforce the recommendation. They will have to be tactful, they will have to be mindful, and they will have to be watchful. If they are able to enforce the recommendation within the arena of mindfulness, I think that will also be done. So that is for government, that is for media, and we all those who comment on the issue, and that is for the parties. For Mensha, I know Mensha is capable, and for what Mensha has done over the years, which made them the viable option for mediation and for reconciliation using the traditional means, I have no doubt in my mind that once all the parties get to the reconciliation table, they will table all their issues, and the issues will be cordially addressed, and we will be moving towards and lasting peace within the Boko entity.
Great. Let me speak to Albert. Albert, your young is the national coordinator for the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP. Yes, WANEP has played some role as well in bringing this matter to finality, trying to work around the issue over the years, etc. This report by Otumfuo should be refreshing, yes, as well to you. And what's your takeaway from the report and its recommendations?
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. This is another stage we have reached as far as the Boko issue is concerned. As you indicated, a lot has happened in Boko, and could say that more than any other area, as far as the energy, the resources, the time that people have spent working on the issue in Boko, is a very delicate matter, as we all acknowledge. And probably the reason we have traveled this far, the number of lives that have been lost in Boko, is something that nobody wants to continue to see happening. The Otumfo is somebody of a very high repute when it comes to issues like this. He understands the traditions, the cultures, and because of his cloud, and what he is capable of doing, he again has been given this task, which he has done. And I always say that when he was involved on the Dagbon issue, and eventually we reached a certain status, I indicated that, that was exemplary and it could be inspirational to other processes, across the country and probably beyond if they so find his services useful and he's available. And so I think that what we have gone through, I believe the parties were encouraged to submit themselves, and they had the goodwill, for the process. And once they committed to the process and had the discussions, and eventually there are outcomes that probably they were also privy to, and the report, has been submitted to the president. I think that it is something that they should eventually commit to the implementation of those outcomes, and also looking at issues of reconciliation. Probably one would say that the report would not have been tended to deviate from what has gone on in some other avenues. For example, the parties have gone to the Judicial Committee of the Houses of Chiefs, they've gone to the court, legal court, and there were outcomes, and if you read what the Otumfo said, that the law as it stands, it tells you that he wouldn't want to deviate or depart from any official ruling, of the state. And he emphasized that nobody is above the law, including he himself, the president, everybody that is a citizen of this country or resides within this country. So that's also one of the things that people need to pay particular attention to. His is an advice to the state that, well, having spoken to the people and listened to what they have said, I think that these are the things we need to do. Enforce the law, make sure that at least there is recognition of what the law says, and that we should encourage the people. And he indeed said he spoke with his brother Denayiri and also spoke with the Aburago, the current Bokonaba, and encourage them to look forward rather than probably trying to lament over the issues. But what I think is that very often the reality is quite difficult for people to accept. People can commit, and we've done some of these things, mediation, not at the height of Otumfo because of his caliber, but we've done mediations, dialogues, and all that, and people will commit to the process. But then when the reality, we reach the reality, then it becomes difficult for them to, so it requires a certain more engagement. And that is where I think governments, the National Peace Council, other civil society organizations, and I could see that Richard alluded to the report, and then we have a statement coming from the Mampusi side, we have a statement coming from the Kosasi side, and one statement that I can say that both may be alluding to is the fact that we need to move forward and that we need to extend the peace leave to each other and that we need to encourage each other to be able to move forward. What I think that people should not be doing is the kind of commentaries that are being churned out, made on air and on platforms that both parties have, and on the national media, which I think sometimes is very discouraging. Because at the moment, what we are thinking about is how do we move forward? How do we get stability in Boko, that all the damage that has been caused, the agricultural, production that has ceased in the area virtually, the trade, and Boko is one of the hubs when it comes to trade in this country, and the threat that is exposed, to us generally as Ghana, need to stop. And so I would think that we need to engage the parties, clarify some of the recommendations that may need clarification, and also remind people of what avenues are available for them to explore should they not still be satisfied with some of the processes. But I think that largely we've reached a stage we require that there is enough security presence, and we require that the parties will restrain themselves, that they will be exploring avenues to engage, so that we can come to a certain conclusion.
Often, it's, of course, the report may favor one part, than the other. What should the parties be doing? The party that does not necessarily agree with the outcome of the process, what can it be doing, or it just has to accept it and move on? And the party that has been favored, what should that party also be doing? And the third part is, what should the system or government be doing to ensure that there is lasting peace in the area?
I have always used these two examples, that when President Mahama lost the elections, not first it was Ado Kufuor, he was not satisfied with the outcome, but he went to court. That is a lawful avenue, and encourage their following, to restrain themselves not to engage in violence whilst the legal process goes on. Mahama did the same, and many of the jurisdictions where we have some of these things, that the outcomes are not satisfactory to both. Of course, when you go through a process like this, depending on the type of process, you can both win, you can both lose. One can win, one may not, but the mutuality and charting a way forward is always very important, and that's why I'm talking about reality. So what I think that the party that has lost, and it has happened in the past, there have been processes that they submitted to, the outcomes were not favorable, and sometimes were favorable, and I think that with that experience, the parties should be able to explore any other avenue that is available, but the option of violence or encouraging people to engage in violence should not be one that anyone will encourage, because it will not help the matter. Because come to think about it, over decades, these people have intertwined. They have intermarried. They have, doing things in common. And if you go there, it's almost difficult to say that this is a Maprusi, this is a Kosasi, except those of them who are in there. So I think that the blood that has, fertilized both of them over the decades is enough to say that they belong to each other, and that they are into each other. And so I would encourage that they should maybe have the discussions and see what are the other options that are available, for us to be part of the normal scheme of things, and still be able to maintain our dignity, be able to have our well-being. And again, those who have lost, who think or perceive that they have won, and I would not want anyone, to be engaged in commentaries that, would provoke other people, because it's not, we say that you do not flog a dead horse, or somebody who is on the ground. You don't have to, because there is already a difficulty in accepting what the situation is, the reality. And so if you make commentaries that again would suggest that, the person is on the losing side and that the person is a weakling and all that, it creates a tendency for the person to want to emphasize certain things, which will not help the cause. So I think that, as I indicated, the statement from the Abu Ghraib's palace, indicates that, there is that extension of a peace leave. How do we move forward? And I think it's a good thing to do, because if you think you have something in your mouth, you don't need to back or to talk so much, and that may fall out. So I think what has happened, we would encourage both of them to restrain themselves and to prevent the commentaries that, if I am the party that is currently holding the skin, I would not want to have any of my members say anything that will provoke anyone. That will make any reconciliation, any development initiative difficult, because at the end, it will spoil the matter and make it very worse. And it may even go beyond what we have at the moment. So I think that is something that we should encourage. And the platforms that they are using, there are elements who definitely will still be want to be defiant. Can they call them to order, both parties, and let them know that yes, because of who we are, an identity, a common identity as people from Boko, we need to move forward. We need to make sure that we have our well-being. We need to make sure that, our generations will not be in the situation that we are in now, as some of them have come to meet. I've always said, because we have elders from both ends, and they have gone through several processes. Because I recall the BPI, Boko Peace Initiative. I recall Damango, Sekotaf, Center for Conflict Transformation and Peace Studies, which used to be called Unity Center, that engaged them. I recall Kumasi. They have been to several places, even beyond Kumasi and also into Accra, that areas. I am wondering what really, those elders cannot do to support any of these processes, rather than probably the youth getting statements that may incense everything and maybe draw us back. I would think that the government, as I said, should, hasten to, but not in a way that would let them lose out on certain critical steps. As Richard indicated, there is a need to be tactful. If they are not tactful, in pushing forward this process in terms of the implementation of the recommendations and the paper that they themselves have issued, it may become something that will be telling on all of us again, and it can be difficult. I have asked, what is it that people who are in peace, can benefit? So incentives for peace, and I think the 1 billion Ghana series that has been pledged, for the redevelopment of Boko. Because if you go there, a lot has happened without Boko over the years. A lot has happened, and if the people still feel the heat of the lack of development, the agricultural production that used to be very vibrant and supplying a lot in the country, the trade that used to take place, and everybody was traveling to Boko to buy things, cereals, to buy animals and all that, and to return to their various places. If this do not happen again, and almost immediately, it can be very difficult. So I think that the government should look at the recommendations and the white paper they have issued, affirming, but they should do things tactfully. As I said, how do they clarify some of the issues and misunderstandings? How do they still clarify some of the positions that the parties have, which they are issuing statements about? It will help the cause for us to work towards reconciliation and stability in the area.
From your experience in doing peace building, etc., do you foresee any challenges in this process? Of course, there's a rival chief installed, and from the report, government must facilitate a safe passage to the Nayiri's palace, and Nayiri is also being entreated to give him some other role, perhaps in his palace to perform, etc. These are, quite challenging things. Do you foresee difficulties in the process, and how can government soften the process so that, the pain is not as much as maybe ordinarily felt by the other side?
It's always difficult, as I said, the reality. And somebody who probably has enjoyed some relevance within the society and within his people, from his people. And then there are recommendations that, certain processes or activities should be undertaken. Obviously, there is going to be a certain feeling, to accept such moves. And so it can be expected that a little bit of resistance or whatever, but then, as I indicated, it requires tact, because at the moment there's security presence and one would expect that all the challenging areas, terrains that there appears to be experiences of violence, sniper attacks and all that should be looked at quite critically, and new ones that may be developed, or people may have the tendency to engage in. So it will require a lot of tact, conversation by the government, and other stakeholders who would have the ear of the Nigerian, who would have the ear of the people, the Mampruses in Boko, including the parallel person, as indicated. So I think that we require conversation for them to get to know that this is where we are, and that it is possible. I can recall in the case of Dagbon, for example, it got to a stage where it was quite difficult for certain people to move. But then conversations enabled that, and that happened. I think that it's also possible for Boko to go through that experience, and it could also be more exemplary to other locations that may have similar things in the future. So the government, as I said, should hasten, but to tarry, they should not do things just because probably they have the power, because at the end, the key thing is, how do we contain the situation? How do we make sure that our own interventions do not do harm to the good process? Because all the parties, acknowledge that there is a need for peace, and that there's a need to move forward, and that there's a need for them to live together once again as people of the same blood, because as I said, the blood has been mixed over years, So I think that it requires tact, reasoning for them to move forward on that.
I see. Richard, 1 billion cedi revitalization fund. How do we begin applying this fund? This is what Boku is getting, of course, because Boku is being, quote unquote, the battlefield or the battleground. Can we do something for the people on the other side as well, so they know that indeed they may not have lost out entirely? Or you think because Boku was a battleground and Boku has been the place that has suffered difficulties leading to economic struggles, etc., that should be where our attention must be focused?
So you want to create problem for me and my uncle Albert this morning. The word is not lost. The word is favorable outcome and non-favorable outcome, because nobody has lost. It's just a status code that Ashanti went for with a prehistorical background and came up with those outcomes. But then again, I agree. I'm thinking that once the implementations begin to fester, we should ask Imani Ghana, Frank Kujo and his team to do a financial risk assessment to see whether the monies are being used for the purposes for which they have been outlined. And the specific projects earmarked for the monies have been followed, so that we could have value for money, we could have quality work done, and we can have the various catchment areas covered in the disbursement of the money. Government, white people also say that they want to spread the money for 4 years, so that at the end of the 4 years, when we do project audit risk assessment, we'll be able to say we have achieved what is needed and we might need more, or we have surplus to spend elsewhere. But having said that, Boko itself has come under high levels of pressure, and there has been a lot of destructive activities over the years. So that is why you can understand Boko became the focal point for the 1 billion. Other than that, nothing stops government to develop all the parts of the northern region, or the northeast we call it. I call it the upper east region, right down from Boga to Boko, through Nankpaduri to Kusika to Narilogo to Walewale to Navrongo to Paga. I've spent about 4 to 5 years within all those areas. And there's a huge need for infrastructure because of the deficit they suffered. And so we should take the conversation out of the Boko mediation and say that there's the need for infrastructure development within the upper east region. Then we can bring home the conversation that government has a responsibility of providing the leading role in developing the place. Yes, of course, 1 billion. I believe as the economy develops, we can make it 3 billion, so that 2 billion will also go into some other areas, develop the agriculture line, the irrigation lines, set up an airport at Boga, and make sure we have the rail lines running to and fro. It will make Boko beat up some of the big cities in this country, and everybody will be fine.
Very well. Thanks so much. Richard, you remain on the next panel. But Albert, thank you so much. We understand this is a very delicate discussion, and thanks so much for holding it quite well. We will continue to rely on your expertise in these matters. Thank you so much, and very good morning to all the people in Boku and Mamprusi areas. We are rooting for both of you, and we hope that this brings lasting peace so that we can be happy as a people. Thank you so much. I'll take a short break. When I return, we will delve into the matter of the repealed LI 2462 and matters arising. This is a big issue on 97.3 City FM. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Hello, my dear friend. I am happy to invite you to our 31st December night Jesus Encounter service. It's going to be a night filled with the presence of God, the power of God, and the grace of God. Jesus said that without me you can do nothing, but with God all things are possible. It means that when we do without God, we will be frustrated. But on the 31st, if we encounter the presence of God and we allow God to lead us into the new year, we will move into great possibilities, mighty and wonderful things in the new year 2026. I am inviting you, especially together with your family and your friends. The place to be is the Camp Elim Main Auditorium, North Legon. The presence of God is going to be strong and powerful. Come with your family. Let us move over into 2026. 054 054 7000. See you here.
Unbelievable. Said you have a city and the Amama Kai or baby and home fair. Wow! Hello, Miss World.
Hello, Ajimara.
Now I hear now what to say.
Me who yo, madam for be ho e wakase. Me ne ye nneema do so.
Me nya na nka me wogana. Na so me talk, me na wiase na mabepie electronic shop bi a kire say. Said you have a city no. Na ohunfo nyini ene hwa wo mani so say. Me ba but the gold, diamond, jewels, nickels, pearls, blankets, everything. I'm a
Ajimara of international waters. Hey!
Wow! Obwa, onya bochire bia.
Obwa wani breno.
Yenkwana no kocho.
Ha! Iti abrocha nani?
Sister, Electroland Ghana Limited showroom for Krani. Kasi Kumase, Omo when you say Samsung, TCL, Media, and a NASCO product. I don't know when you have Omo be able to say Kaswa, Asamai, Makasim, Tamale, Sprinters, Coca-Cola.
Ajimara, it's me na nkaba to chejuma kutu dia so me say bam.
Me private jet no kwa. E be see me na me ba. Let's bygone be bygone. Hey, eniyema a mo pese mo yi no ha bia. Munyi
yo yebeyi.
Electroland Ghana, home of electronics and affordable luxury.
This Christmas Eve, skip the ordinary and step into the extraordinary. Welcome to the Situation All-White Party 2025, where the music never stops, the energy never drops, and the fun never ends. Celebrating grand style with great music, irresistible food, and an atmosphere that screams good vibes only. Date 24th December 2025. Venue Good Pack near the Accra Mall. Time 8 p.m. till late. Dress code, it's an all-white affair. Get ready for electrifying live performances from Kofi Kinata,
Funko Bobano, Inyala Yito Iketon, Inchin Band, and DJ Mingo. Your best all-white fit. Bring your dancing shoes and let's light up the night together. Book your tables now. Call 0205-973-973 or 0558-973-973. It's Christmas Eve. Don't miss it. The Situation All-White Party 2025 is powered by Channel 1 TV and 97.3 City FM, and it's proudly sponsored by EcoBank, Bethel Logistics, and Hallmark Cafe, and supported by Oswald Investments Limited, Verb Duvernay, and Logistics Movers.
DJ, bring the tune back again. Shock the fans, so I see Franco from Guess will kick that.
Behind every closed door, a secret is waiting to explode.
Always been regarded as a useful and the sound party person. So I gather there's a fair chance of me making the office, provided we don't get into trouble. So don't start any trouble with the police.
A Detective Calls, an intriguing stage play brought to life on television, where every clue matters and every character is a potential suspect.
About 2 hours ago, a young woman died at the police hospital.
This will take only the service of a fierce and yielding and sharp as steel detective to uncover the truth behind this web of lies and betrayal.
And so, you used the power you had as the daughter of a good customer and also that of a powerful, politically connected man in the town to punish the girl.
No. Why didn't you come to me when you realized you were in such a mess?
Because you are not the kind of father a chap could come to when they are in trouble, that's why.
Grow from Image Bureau Productions. A Detective Calls premieres on Christmas Day at 1 p.m.
Yeah, welcome back to the Big Issue live on 97.3 City FM. We are live on Channel 1 television and on YouTube as well. The show is live and interactive. We are happy to hear from you. Our WhatsApp line 02044470033 or 0549986996, and your views will be aired to the rest of the world. Now, we just finished with the matter on Boku and what we can be doing to ensure there's lasting peace in the area following the presentation of Otum 482 mediation reports and the endorsement of the same by the government and the setting up of the 1 billion revitalization fund for that area to revitalize that area economically, amongst other things. Now we'll move to something else. The revocation of LI 2462, that LI enabled or made it possible for mining to take place in forest reserves. Civil society organizations have been up in arms against this. They feel that the pollution of our water bodies largely could be attributed to this particular LI and the activities it permitted. It became a big issue sometime last year in the heat of the electioneering period. Organized labor said they were striking to force the hand of government to repeal the law. All of that happened. Government tabled a repeal bill, but that did not see the light of day for various reasons. Fast forward, new administration, they amended a portion of that law. Civil society said, no, this wasn't what we wanted or you promised. Now, finally, the minister laid before Parliament the repeal bill that's matured, and so the LI 2462 is no more. Civil society sees this as victory. They are celebrating it, but they are cautious, or they are quick to add that the repeal alone will not solve all problems of galamsey and water pollution. We want to see what else we can be doing to ensure that our water bodies are cleaner, our forests are safer, and our reserves are untouched, and they serve the exact purpose of being a reserve. Now, government has completely revoked legislative instrument 2462, which granted power to the president to authorize mining in forest reserves in the country. This comes after the Environmental Protection Revocation Instrument 2025 matured into law on Wednesday, December 10, 2025, following its laying in Parliament by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua. The move forms part of government's renewed efforts towards the fight against illegal mining, also known as Galamsey. LI 2462, which follows or which allows mining activities in forest reserves, has faced fierce criticism from environmental activists and the public for its role in exacerbating the damaging effects of illegal mining, also known as Galamsey. Some members of parliament have been commenting on the matter.
We'll consider as a first step, but it is not entirely, it is not essentially, it is not clearly the promise of the president. You said they wanted to stop illegal mining, and illegal mining is not only happening in forests, it is happening in water bodies, it is happening in homes, it is happening in communities, within settlements. The president does not need, actually, to revoke the law allowing him to allow mining in forest reserves, because the president can decide to say that I'm not going to allow, right? It will not change anything. So I just think this is a cosmetic approach. The fight against illegal mining is getting out of grips of the government, and they want this to use it to assuage the people of Ghana that they are doing something. But in reality, a month from today, illegal mining will continue if they don't do something drastic.
It is one of the main commitments that you can ever show, legislation. Because all the things that we need to implement are laws that we need to implement. If you don't have the law, you can't implement. I concede that Galamsey have not been eradicated. Nobody is saying has been eradicated. But the commitment that the president has shown, this government has shown, is more than what we saw in the previous government. We are here to reap the benefit of these efforts because it's been endemic, it's been practiced, it's been there for a long time. You can't use 1 year to completely eradicate something that has been done for several years.
All right, so you heard a few MPs sharing their views on the repeal of LI 2462. My guest for this segment of the program, Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa, Hamza Suini, member of the NDC Communications team, he's a lawyer, Andrew Apia Dankwa is a legal director for the United Party, Awula Sewa is a coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, and Ishak Ibrahim is a lecturer at the UPSA Law School and a member of the New Patriotic Party. Gentlemen, you're welcome. And lady, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let me start off with you, Hamza. Yes, the president promised to deal with the canker of Galamsey. This law has been repealed. Of course, it was not repealed without drama, but finally it is here. The discussion is that it does not, the repeal of the law in itself does not stop Galamsey. Where do we go from here?
Good morning to you and good morning to my colleagues in the studio and those who are joining us via Zoom and our cherished listeners and viewers out there. Selom, I think the point needs to be made that when it comes to governance, an important aspect of state governance has to do with the ability of the states, especially the executive for that matter, to be able to engage meaningfully with all stakeholders when it comes to government policy and the implementation of same. And in opposition, this government led by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, whilst we were campaigning to be elected as the substitute government, we made certain promises. And one key promise that was made had to do with the promise to repeal LI 2462. Undoubtedly, upon assumption of office, many shades of opinion were brought to bear in terms of the direction government needed to go in relation to that particular LI. There were those who were of the view that indeed government should consider a repeal of the section that granted access to mining in our forest reserves and proceed to preserve key aspects of that particular legislation, because they were of the view that the legislation in its entirety wasn't really that bad, but the aspect that had to do with forestry, access to forestry, was their major concern. And so that dragged on And it's a government that ought to listen to the people and engage all stakeholders. At that material moment, it was not prudent for government to be hasty in its decision, especially when it was going to be having far-reaching consequences as far as not just our forest protection was concerned, but to a very large extent, even our economic reliability as a country or fortunes. And so government needed to take its time and actually consult widely. And that is what we have done on this matter. Government engaged with all the major stakeholders. And we have reached a stage where we are convinced that the only way to get out of the woods, as far as a particular ally is concerned, is simply to repeal it. And we have done so. That in itself demonstrates commitment on the part of this government to its promises, first of all, and secondly, its willingness to engage meaningfully with all major stakeholders. And this is also another important demonstration, Selom, that, look, this government is committed to the Galamsey fight. We have not said that by the simple repeal of this particular ally, government has become successful in the fight against illegal mining. Absolutely not. And I listened to the minister responsible for lands and natural resources and many of our MPs who spoke on the subject. None of them simplified the fight against illegal mining to simply the repeal of this particular law. Absolutely not. We understand that the responsibility when it comes to the fight against illegal mining is onerous. And this government is still committed to that. But this is a significant step as far as that effort is concerned. And I'll demonstrate why. Prior to the introduction of LI 2462 in 2022, by the very regime, because I was listening to Dr. Kebiru Mahama, and for a moment I was lost, because he has forgotten that according to the research conducted by civil society organizations, prior to the introduction of the LI in 2022, only about 2% of our forest reserves in this country was under threat in terms of mining activities. But immediately after the passage of that particular LI, it moved to about 98% coverage area. It means that many of our forest reserves were under siege because of the legal impetus that was given as a result of the president's decision to sponsor and eventually assent to that particular LI, making it possible. That was when we saw the upsurge in mining in our forest reserves, where even state appointees, like the Kumasi mayor, the regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region, some members of parliament or parliamentary candidates, officers from the office of the chief of staff in the SWA regime, were deeply involved in mining in forest reserves under the cover of that particular LI. And that was when the political participation in illegal mining became palpable. And that's why it was difficult for the
So that's why it was important to repeal it. But
absolutely.
Yes, mining in forest reserves. But the president could decide not to permit it without even repealing it. So it was a discretion for the president to exercise.
It is a discretion for the president.
So he could have decided to exercise otherwise.
But it was clear that the president exercised discretion, the former president exercised discretion to grant licenses to many of these people. In any case, Ghana has certain commitments when it comes to our pact with the United Nations as far as our climate commitments are concerned and preservation of our forest reserves. And so many of us argue, even in opposition, that this particular LI constituted an affront to these pacts and an unwillingness on the part of government to stay committed to these international agreements and treaties. We made those points, Salom. And so, look, as for political power, it is important for you to appreciate that there's the tendency for politicians to want to abuse power. So to an extent that there was a legislation that empowered the president to grant, there's always a tendency for the president to be swayed in favor of granting and support his actions in law because there's a law, legal basis to do so. But today, we have taken not just the discretion to grant, we have also made it illegal by the repeal of that particular law. And it is something commendable. And you cannot celebrate this success without singling out the spirited role of civil society organizations and the commitment they have shown so far as their commitment to getting this out of our law books is concerned. And for me, in as much as government has done its bit, as a government that listens and as a responsible one, we would want to thank civil society organizations for being constructive partners on this journey and doing everything within its power to ensure that government did not have to renege on the promise we made as a political party in opposition to repeal, and has suddenly gone through with a repeal. So it's something that we must commend, and that is the beauty of democracy, and that is the reason why it is important for a government to open its doors to stakeholder participation when it comes to governance. We did not see that in the previous regime.
Very well.
But this government has indicated, and I'm sure the civil society organizations themselves would agree, that though executive power is in the hands of His Excellency the President and his ministers, we appreciate that executive power is shared in a way that we must consult with many of our compatriots in the country, including civil society organizations. And I believe that my brother from the New Patriotic Party himself would be inspired by this direction given by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC government.
Very well. Let me come to Shak. Yes, we have representation from civil society on the panel. Awula Sewa, articulate voice on the matter. Franklin Kujo, man of many parts, doing many things. It's also been very vociferous on this matter. Okay. That's Imani, Eco-Conscious and Imani, and a lot of them, about 17 and more of them issued a statement after, and we'll get to that. So, Ishak, I mean, this was something that was introduced in your time.
Yes.
Can we understand the thinking behind that? Because many people would find it difficult to understand why you would permit mining in forest reserves when indeed you are signatory to various international treaties or agreements seeking to protect certain species. And now here we are, and we could not get that done. We could not repeal it for various reasons. This time it's been done. That should be some relief for you as well.
Okay, thank you very much, my brother. I've listened to Hamza very careful, and I think the closer remarks that he believes I'm inspired by their actions. I'm actually depressed by your actions. So let's get that clear. I'm actually depressed. But I'm not really sure, 100% sure, what informed the decision to introduce the LI. But what I'm particularly sure is 2024 events. I had the opportunity of debating this LI. In fact, with my good brother here on Good Morning Ghana, I believe we went head to head about it. Somewhere October, November, I mean, you quite saw how the NDC packaged the Galamsey problem to be a Nana Akufo-Addo problem, and that they were a solution to that particular problem. All that we just needed to do was to trust them. Elsewhere, I've called them corn people when it comes to Galamsey. Everything they were saying then, they did not mean it. Now, among the civil society group, organized labor in particular, went head to head with the president, and they were demanding a number of things to happen. I think one was a declaration of a state of emergency. I think two was suspension or repeal of the mining in forest reserves. And I think the final one was about establishing a specialist court that would deal with the matter summarily, quickly, instead of us, because it looked like a number of people were not prosecuted. So people were more or less doing it with impunity. And I think the president responded very well, at least to the satisfaction of organized labor. Because the first action he did was to establish, to have a conversation with the Chief Justice, to establish those specialist courts. And civil society were happy with it. And then the next one was he actually suspended mining in forest reserves, but said that the repeal would be done when Parliament were successfully recalled, because the NDCs had attempted to steal Parliament. And we had a crisis in Parliament.
They attempted to steal Parliament?
Well, yeah, they tried to claim majority. When under the rule, there was no way they could claim majority. And they were in bed with the then Speaker of Parliament.
No, but to say they tried to steal, I'm not sure the context you're using it, but because there was precedent, and they were just following precedent in the case of the former MP.
Well, it's not every precedent.
No, wait. Until the precedent is unsettled, It's unsettled.
Yes.
I mean, that was what they had. That was what
they were not following any precedent. When we say precedent, for me, when somebody says precedent, I mean when something is binding. What Professor McQuaid did in the past, we're not binding on them. And this particular one, you can actually distinguish if it is even precedent at all. To say that the circumstances at that time were not like the previous circumstances, but that's not where my main point lies. But my main point is that he suspended the mining in forest reserves and said when Parliament returned from whatever crisis, if you want me to put it that way, crisis that was manufactured, they would have the opportunity to repeal it. And the final one was a state of emergency. He appealed to them that, so state of emergency was what he didn't declare. But he reasoned with them that we are just almost about to have election. If we were to declare state of emergency, it will have certain unintended consequences. And organized labor understood them, understood the president. And then they called off the strike. And what did the NDC say? The NDC said mining in forest reserve and Galamsey in general was an existential threat. In fact, Hamza used the word ecocide in my conversation with him on Good Morning Ghana. He said it was ecocide. There was a need to bring it to an end. I heard the now education minister saying that state of emergency was needed and that repealing it, we needed it immediately. I heard many of them saying it. Now, the good people of Ghana punish us, either rightly or wrongly. They said, no, you were the right people to deal with the problem because you presented it and marketed it so. They gave you power. What did you do with it? One would have expected that if something is an existential threat, something you describe as ecocide, the equivalent of genocide in humans, if it is an existential threat, a responsible listening government that was whipping the then government in opposition, that would have been the first act. That would have been the first act. You will not even stammer. But what did they do? Because they had no plan. They celebrated their 90 days. When we said these were low-hanging fruit that you were celebrating, the heavy lifting was, one of them was repealing the LI in forest reserve. What did they do? They attempted to amend. And if you look at that conference that President Mahama had with the civil society, I mean, read his body language. It looks as if Galamsey never bothers him. Because over there, he painted a picture that actually depresses me. The picture he painted was, it's like Ghana doesn't have the capacity to deal with it. Because he said that, look, there's no need to declare a state of emergency. Because, what was the reason why he said there was no need to declare a state of emergency? One of them was that there is a team that told him state of emergency were not needed. Another reason is that there are more tools for him to use before state of emergency. If there are more tools for you to use, wouldn't you have used it from day one if it is an existential threat? The very day you take over
power. Using them, right?
Well, if they are not working, because we had a report that the turbidity level of the water had gone much higher than when he took over. And we're told by Ghana water companies that tariffs will be increased because of the extra costs they are incurring. So if you're a president and you say there are still tools left, why didn't you use those tools? And when it comes to the LI, you said you were going to amend it. For me, the only reason why President Mahama and his team have amended it now is we have beaten them into it. It's not that they are listening government. It's not that they think it's in the interest of Ghana. It's because of the opposition they have met from the MPP in particular and civil society.
But will you admit,
we are holding them accountable.
Will you admit that,
this is why the repeal is happening.
Will you admit that the repeal that has happened obviously is a positive step for the fight against Galamsey? Will you admit that?
It will help because that was what everybody agreed that the mining in forest reserve, even though it was intended for the best interest of Ghana, people were misusing it. So of course it will help. But when it comes to the Galamsey fight in general, this government doesn't even have the appetite for it. I believe they are fighting a losing battle. Because
what will you say about the government referring some of its senior persons to Iyoko, who were said to be involved in Galamsey? That is some political will that shows that the government is serious about fighting this. We didn't see that.
What is that? Oh, we didn't see that. I thought there were some people who were
referred
investigated.
to IOCO or the investigative bodies in respect of this.
No. NDP time, there were people who were investigated.
On
It's just that they were clear that they had done nothing wrong. Yes, people were investigated.
I see.
And what is the outcome of those they have referred so far?
The biggest thing that plays on everybody's mind
Yes.
is the Frimpong Boateng report and
Okay.
what we did with it. So
Okay.
that is something we'll have to deal with for many years to come.
Okay.
You know, when Frimpong Boateng, the then minister
Yes.
for environment and one who chaired the interministerial committee,
Yes.
put a report together.
Yes.
How did you deal with it? They mentioned specific names in the report.
Okay.
Did we investigate it? Did we call those people to order? Did we even find out what the matters were?
Okay.
It didn't appear so. So that is a major matter that you have to grapple with every time. When it comes to your commitment against the fight against Galamsey.
But we are not in
on the fight
government
against
now.
Galamsey.
We were right.
Yes,
we were punished.
you
for
are
whatever reason.
Exactly.
But
But what
good people of Ghana.
yes, what you are doing is saying that you did better. And I'm just trying to point out to you some of the naughty points you had that made people unhappy with you.
The picture I am painting is not natural. I wasn't directly saying we did better. But I said they are corn people. They had no plan. This beating them into repealing this thing is because it wasn't even part of their plan. Because if it is part of the plan, and you are a responsible government, and when you were in opposition, more or less government in waiting, you said what we needed was to repeal it. Since they took power, how long? Almost 12 months. We are in December. How can a listening government that says something was an essential threat for citizens took 12 months to do it? And even with the 12 months, it took a huge debate, we holding them accountable before they finally do it. I mean, you can assess it. Is this really a listening government? Something you say is capable of killing large portion of your population. And it took you 12 months. And it's not even a heavy lifting thing. It's just repealing a bill.
Very well.
It's not money that we ask them to push it. Just go to parliament, get time allocated, and you repeal it. And it took you 12 months. This is not a listening government.
Very well. Andrew, I mean, it's taken quite a bit of time to get this repeal done. What will you bring? What will you say about that? The repeal, people thought it was one of the low-hanging fruit, which could have been done earlier. We saw an amendment. People didn't like it. Now we have a repeal. You think the way government has handled this LI 2462 amendments and now repeal has something to do with how committed or otherwise it is about fighting Galamsey?
So let me wish you a lovely rest of the morning, yourself a good morning. My brother Hamza, it's always a pleasure to be in his company, and my professor. Certainly, the way I think the delay, if I have one disappointment about His Excellency John Mahama's as in management of the country now, it has to do with the delay in repealing this repugnant LI. But the bottom line is that it has been repealed, whether we forced him, whether he was cajoled, whether CSOs had to cry, whether it has been repealed. Now, if I have one regret, I have one disappointment about all of us as Ghanaians, then it was in our inability or our refusal to impeach Nana Addo when he committed this heinous crime in how he deliberately fooled Galamsey.
How?
Now, proud to, you see, there's so, in fact, I think you yourself have answered this my question for me when you brought up the Frimpong Boateng's issue. I was proud to, one of the key issues when Nana Addo became president was the Galamsey issue. And he promised all of us that he was going to put his presidency on the line. Now, beyond that promise, when on 7th January 2017, he took an oath to all of us as Ghanaians. Now, he took an oath, one, to be faithful to Ghana. He took an oath to protect, preserve the laws, the constitution of Ghana. And he also took an oath to dedicate himself to the well-being of all Ghanaians. In how he managed Galamsey, in how he fooled Galamsey. And evidence of that fooling of the Galamsey was in the LI that was passed. Because prior to 2022, the president of Ghana did not have power to permit mining in forest reserves. That was the essence of the LI. The essence of that LI was to give the president power to permit mining in forest reserves. Now, to think that the president, Nana-Addo, would want power to allow mining in forest reserve in itself was a fundamental crime on Ghana. You talk about Prof. Boateng's report. Yeah, yes, you talk about Prof. Boateng's report. And one of the things that shocked me was the fact that the president went beyond the substance of that report. The fact that that report had to be leaked before we all knew the extent of the report. The fact that the report was saying that, and one of the many things the report said, that in 2018, the president gave clear orders to his minister of Lands and Natural Resources, ban all mining in forest reserves. And already mining in forest reserves was already banned because it was illegal. You understand? So to think that the president, being the repository of executive power, refused to use that power to go after people who were mining in forest reserve, but then sumptuously then asked his minister, ban mining in forest, something that is already banned. And when the minister failed to do so, the president, who is the holder of executive power, did nothing to the minister. He did nothing. And beyond that, he then went ahead to make them pass a law which would give him power.
Yeah, so that if he doesn't allow you, you can't go into the forest.
But before that, he didn't even need to.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of things are illegal, like Okada, for example.
So just enforce it.
Yeah, so but the enforcement sometimes is a problem.
No, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but you know, I'm just telling you that there are some social problems which are illegal, like the Okada or tricycle thing.
Right now, defies the law.
Yes, I'm saying, but prior to the passage of the law, it was illegal. But we saw it all over the place.
Council.
So there are times the problem becomes bigger and you can't just enforce it. So I'm sure that's why they introduced the law.
I disagree vehemently.
Until I allow you.
I disagree vehemently with any view that seems to suggest that the president, that we've given our powers to executive powers, should have a problem executing any law in Ghana. So when he took an oath to be faithful to Ghana, when he took an oath to protect and defend and preserve the laws of Ghana, when he took an oath to dedicate himself to the well-being of Ghana, and then his failure to enforce a law created a situation where our very existence was under threat. Then what was he talking about? Yeah. So it can't be an excuse. So then what it simply means is that the president cannot be president. Then why did he put himself up as president in the first place? And having been president and having shown clearly that he did not have the capacity to enforce the law, why didn't we impeach him? I mean, he didn't have the capacity to be president of Ghana. Yeah, because if you can't enforce the law, then you don't have the capacity to be president of Ghana. You understand? And to think that beyond this radical and fundamental failure of the president, and the fact that his party, the party that sponsored him, in spite of the clear terms of their own, one of their objectives, which is a firm belief in the protection of the environment, sat down and didn't have the cojones to call their president to order.
You were part of us.
And that's why I left.
7 years.
That's why I left. No, I wasn't quiet. Let me speak. Listen, let me speak. Now Google my name, and one of the first things you see is that I'm the president called, in fact, I was on the show with you. I called for the impeachment of His Excellency Nana-Addo.
After 7 years?
No.
When you were with them? Or
when I was with them. I don't say just Google me and please ask him that when he was speaking, I was not.
Yeah, because
if I was still, thank God, I'm not in NPP. Thank God I called the president out when I was still in the NPP. I can't believe he has the cojones, he has the moral authority, anybody in NPP, to speak about Galamsey. I'm serious. They should, you see, what they should do is look for ashes and sackcloth. They should wear sackcloth, look for ashes, put the ashes on their heads, and bow their heads down in shame for the sin they committed against Ghana. And they can speak about Galamsey. Because you see, he's here talking about what the president was slow and at the end of the day, the kind of pressure we put on Mahama, His Excellency Mahama, is less than 10% of the pressure we placed on Nana-Addo. And in spite of the pressures we placed on Nana-Addo, he refused to act as president. So far as the issue of Galamsey was concerned, to the extent that he wanted us to give him powers. Indeed, he took powers per law. Because sometimes you can use a law as a weapon to perpetrate crime against your own people. The thought that he wanted, they passed that airline in the first place. to give him the power to allow people to enter into a fight. What you see, when you understand
the disappointment you express in that, how about the MPs who sat and watched this happen?
Coming there.
So the MPs are also there. So don't blame the president alone.
No, blame the president.
They could have stopped it. That's why they are there. That's why they are there.
Because there's something fundamentally wrong with our governance structure. There's something fundamentally wrong with it. So we run a system where we say the political parties, first of all, sponsor people to become president. So first of all, if you're a political party and you sponsor somebody, the person is running his presidency or is running an agenda which is contrary to your party's stated agenda. The party, first of all, ought to call the president out too. We say we are running separation of powers. That's what our constitution is saying. And we say we are running separation of powers. And the duty of parliament is to serve as a check on the executive. Council, is that what we see in Ghana here? Because of the fundamental flaw in our governance architecture, where everybody wants to be members of the executive. Indeed, where we had 137, and one extra, that was the parliament that allowed this ally. Is there something not fundamentally wrong with our entire governance architecture? And indeed, if you are asked to make an analysis about the success or not of this our fourth republic, then a lot of the things that happened in the last regime shows you the fundamental flaws with the system we are running, and that we don't even understand politics. And I want to define politics once again, Aristotle's division, that politics is the master science that uses all the sciences. To what end? One, to create a strong state, and two, to take care of the well-being of your citizens. And so the president took an oath that he's going to dedicate himself. We had a report that said that because of the cyanide, because of the mercury, because of the lead in our water bodies, right now we are having children, babies, one who come and then they have 2 heads. They have 10 fingers, what's called, instead of 5 on your left finger, they have like 10. Yeah, we have issues that goes to the very fiber of our DNA. You understand? So to think that because of this parochial political culture.
So you lay all of that at the doorstep of Akufo-Addo?
Oh, certainly.
But what will you say about the situation? For example, the report suggests that the turbidity levels have gone beyond, is it 90,000 or 90? When we were making all the noise calling for state of emergency, it was 14,000 or so. It went to about 90,000.
Yes, and that's why. So Nanado is the classical example. He is there. But having said that, I'm saying that if there's one aspect of the governance of this current administration that I'm a bit disappointed with, is in how they've tackled Galamsey. Because there seems to be a fundamental lack of commitment. Probably because the people doing the Galamsey are the politicians. However, if you reduce this discussion to a comparative analysis in terms of, let's say, evidence of commitment, we've given His Excellency John Mahama pressure. The pressure is not up to even 20% of the pressure we've given on Hadu.
Absolutely.
And yet, we have a repeal of the LI. So at least I have hope that if I give pressure, if I just yesterday I was driving from Accra to Kumasi.
It only means you are part of the
I'm coming. When I was driving from yesterday from Kumasi to Accra, I saw blatantly, openly, right now there's a certain direction. So when you get to any name, you divert and go and pass there's some new road, bypass them, and you could see the Galamsey there. So certainly there's something fundamentally wrong with how His Excellency John Mahama is also handling the Galamsey. Because I see them. And yet there's nobody's so there seems to be a fundamental lack of commitment to simply enforce the laws of Ghana. I won't sit here and pretend and say that, His Excellency, no, he's not doing well. But I'm saying...
So will you call for his impeachment too?
No. And the reason why I don't call for his impeachment is clearly he has commitment. So rather I'll look at his strategy to fight...
What do you mean by commitment?
So do you want to fight this or not? And so
I just said you saw it by the road. I mean, it's happening.
So you yourself say there are so many issues that we don't have, but at least there is a commitment to fight them. So that people are finding ways. You understand? Now he has brought a strategy. I disagree with the strategy. In fact, when we the UP, our position one was that first of all, they should even ban all small scale mining. Now that's very different from John Mahama. He thinks that he can use NIMOS to fight it. We felt that yes, he should call for a state of emergency. He's saying that he thinks that he has enough powers to fight Galamsey without
state of emergency.
But if you do a simple comparative analysis, just even with this repeal, you can see some commitment at fighting. Maybe the issue has to do with the strategies they're using, and that's why I'm saying that.
No, the way you're on fire now.
No,
drink water.
No. You let So my issue is, unfortunately, right now, and the people of Ghana should take this battle in their hands, because we have the biggest opposition party who simply do not have that moral right.
So now so Ghanaians should own it.
So the CSOs,
yes,
United Party will lead the CSOs, and that we all come together, the media, and then fight.
Great.
Right now, I'm telling them, go and look for sackcloth, go and look for ashes, wear the sackcloth, put the ashes on your head, and bury your head in shame because of the crime if we did to this country. You should sit here and talk about.
Just write it down. I'll give you a paper and a pen.
Yes.
All right. So you said citizens must rise and fight. Yes. Eco-conscious citizens, CSO, civil society group, one of the very articulate CSOs on the matter. Ola Sewa is the executive director of Eco-conscious Citizens. Good to have you on the program as always. You guys appear to be on some honeymoon following the revocation of the LI 2462. But it does appear, of course, it is the case, that is not the end of the road. Are we not celebrating this repeal too much?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me, and a good morning to everybody in the studio and everybody contributing to this program. First of all, we are not on a honeymoon program. All we've done is to commend the Lands Minister in his capacity as acting Environment Minister to lay the LI before Parliament. And that is all. We are not celebrating, because let's be absolutely clear. As has been said, we face an existential threat. We're on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. Why has it taken so long to repeal LI 2462 when in opposition? It was being touted that we'll repeal LI 2462. We will do this, we'll do that. We're able to promptly repeal the EI levy. We're able to repeal the betting tax, which did not cause an existential threat. So we are grateful, but what we are saying is that all LI 2462 is doing is protecting our forest reserves. What needs to happen is that we need to, first of all, strengthen the Forestry Commission so that the guards are well equipped so that they can protect our forest reserves. And let's be clear, this is not the time to be doing NPP, NDC. Both have failed Ghanaians when it comes to the environment. Both have a case to answer. What I would say is that in the beginning, you said it yourself, Stella, there was drama. What was done at first was to try and pull the wool over the eyes of Ghanaians by amending LI 2462. Knowing very well that all the amendment would have done was to deal with a very small section, globally significant biodiversity area, not the whole of the forest reserve. But anyway, be that as it may, we should be moving back. It's just learning from the past. So we are saying that LI 2462 has nothing to do with illegal mining. It's about state-sponsored destruction of our forest reserves. It's about the state purporting to give licenses for our forest reserves to be destroyed by big mining companies. What we need to do now is to go head on and face the existential threat. As we speak, the Ankobra River is still diverted. Many of our water bodies are diverted. As we speak, there's illegal mining going on. NAMOS is not well equipped. They don't even have a dedicated phone line that you can call them. I don't even have to call them. We all know where illegal mining is taking place, and nothing is being done. As I speak, in Atronsu, the activists who are trying to protect the only source of drinking water there, the Atronsu stream, they rather were arrested by the police and they are being prosecuted. As I speak, they tell me that last night illegal mining was taking place in Atronsu. The police have not acted. The MCE has not acted. The assemblyman said that he had removed the motherboard, but whether it was removed or not, the illegal mining is still going on. It's a travesty that when communities are trying to fight illegal mining, they are being undermined, they are being imprisoned because the Atronsu 5 spent 5 nights in custody They were arrested on Farmers' Day last year because 2 excavators destroying the landscape and water bodies were burnt, and the police then sprang into action and decided that the activists must have burnt it, although they denied the charges. So let me be clear that we're not interested in fighting illegal mining, because many times, I'm sorry to say, the firefighters are themselves the arsonists. The police must have key performance indicators. If there's illegal mining going on under their patch and they are unable to do anything about it, then maybe they should be removed. And then, unless they are shown clearly whether it's political interference or whatever, we are not interested in fighting illegal mining. And I want to repeat that Confanoche Hospital has told us that the kidney disease complaints cases have gone up 4 times. We know that there's a rise in maternal death, deformed babies. Scientists have told us that because our water bodies have been poisoned, and let me say this, even when the water is clear, it doesn't mean it's safe, because mercury, arsenic, and so on and so forth don't have a color. Our food is being poisoned. It's not just our contumely, our tubers, and so on and so forth. So any government that is more interested in e-levy and in betting tax than in safeguarding Ghanaians, I just don't know the words to describe such a government. But yes, we are grateful that the LI 2462 has been finally repealed. But let's not celebrate, because it has nothing to do with illegal mining. It has to do with state-sponsored destruction of our forest reserves and water bodies. Because as has already been said, a lot of water bodies find their source in forest reserve, such as Atiwa Forest Reserve, which is still under siege. We've asked for it to be declared a national park. This hasn't been done. And Atiwa Forest Reserve, where 3 rivers take their source, and is a source of drinking water to over 5 million Ghanaians, is still under siege. So I have said a lot, but I want to say that this is no honeymoon. We're going into 2026, and we are impressing upon government to be serious, to have the political will to deal with LI 2462 and all the actors, whether chiefs, whether political appointees, whether party chairmen, or so on and so forth, who are involved in illegal mining. And I want to say that both the NPP and the NDC have failed us when it comes to illegal mining. Professor Boateng's report still needs to be acted upon. We really need to show that when it comes to illegal mining, we are serious. Why can we not pause small-scale mining until we can get our act together? Why have we not been able to do that? And why can we not declare a state of emergency? It beggars belief that if we understand that there's a national emergency going on, our water bodies are being poisoned, water is life, yet we are reluctant to declare a targeted state of emergency. And I'll end by saying that let's congratulate a place like Gemma, because they have a progressive chief, Nana Enuku II, who has said no to all forms of mining. And they have Father JB, Father Joseph Blay, a community champion, who have come together to mobilize the community. There's no illegal mining there. When it takes place, they patrol and they arrest the illegal miners, even if the police promptly release them. There's no illegal mining there. And they've set up a cooperative farming, because they understand we cannot eat gold, and we need somewhere where we can have organic food, free from pollutants and free from mercury and other heavy toxins, heavy metals and toxins. So well done to Gemma. And I pray that those listening to the program, the politicians, will see how we can replicate Gemma's good example into all parts of Ghana, so that the existential threat we face comes to an end. We are on the verge of an ecological catastrophe, and we cannot be patting ourselves on the back when this is ongoing.
So the assumption is that with the repeal of this law, yes, mining in forest reserves will stop, hopefully. And so the contamination of our water bodies, a lot of the water bodies take their source from the forest. That may stop. So the contamination that will occur in the forest and then flow out may be stemmed. And so the conditions of our water bodies may improve. That is something we can look forward to. Is that not the case?
Well, we know that passing laws and enforcing the laws are 2 different things. As we speak, our wetlands, our Ramsar sites are being built upon. The laws are there. In fact, we signed the Ramsar Treaty. What difference is it making? So long as laws remain decoration. If LI 2462 has been passed, but if you don't strengthen the Forestry Commission, you don't strengthen those who are implementing the law, ensuring that there's no encroachment in our forest reserves, what would we have achieved? And let's be clear that yes, water takes its source from our forest reserve, but there are so many other places away from our forest reserves where the illegal mining has affected the landscape and the water bodies, and that's why a lot of our food is poisoned. I've mentioned Atronsu. Atronsu is not in a forest reserve, but the mining there, if it continues, poisoning the water bodies, will have an impact on the produce. So yes, this is a step in the right direction, but it is not solving the problem. And enforcement is key. Ghana has lots of beautiful laws, but if they are just decoration and we are allergic to enforcement, passing this law will not have the desired results.
The Forestry Commission this week said they wanted to push for a paramilitary status so they can get into the forest and work harder, push harder, because they would have had some status akin to a paramilitary body. What's your thinking around this? You think that it's about time we looked at this favorably and gave it to them? Or you think the other paramilitary organizations or the state itself should be able to take charge and deal with this and not bother ourselves with granting paramilitary status to the Forestry Commission? But they are in the forest, actually.
What I would say is that the head of the Forestry Commission is an environmentalist. He cares about the forest. He's not just there because he's been appointed. So if he's telling us what he believes would help, I think we should take it very, very seriously. The Forestry Commission, they are handicapped. How can they do their job when they are not properly resourced? You are dealing with environmental terrorists, some of whom are armed. And what do they have to protect themselves? So I think we should take what he has said seriously. And we are also urging the executive to repeal EI 144, which has declassified parts of Achimota Forest, the only remaining forest reserve in Accra. So we are appealing to the executive. If you are serious about the environment, you don't need anybody, just the executive on its own can repeal EI 144. And yes, whatever the Forestry Commission is asking for to protect our forest, they are on the ground, they know what is needed. For heaven's sake, let's give them what they want and then hold them accountable. And I believe that if we properly resource them, give them the paramilitary status that they are asking for, they will protect our forests.
There's NIMOS. NIMOS is due to receive some 150 million cedis in the next budget. I mean, next year when the budget implementation starts. That's supposed to be NIMOS's job. NIMOS has military people leading it and working hand in hand with Forestry Commission, etc. Granting Forestry Commission paramilitary status, won't that be duplicating functions, militarizing our institutions too much? You know, NIMOS is to deal with that. Government has voted some money for them for 2026. How about we advocate for the money to be released to NIMOS, we hold NIMOS accountable, push them to do what they have to do, rather than pushing Forestry Commission up to have a paramilitary status?
You see, what I would say is that Forestry Commission is already mandated to protect our forest reserves. What they need to have to protect it, I'm not an expert. They are there, they are on the ground, they know what should be done. I think we should listen to them. Coming back to NIMOS, NIMOS is woefully under-resourced. How can we be serious about NIMOS protecting our landscape when we are not resourcing them? You've talked about 150 million, hooray! But what we know is that NIMOS was never set up to really do a good job. You don't even have a dedicated number that can be called. Time and time again, NIMOS had to retreat because they were not properly resourced. So what we need to do is to resource NIMOS. I'm not quite sure that having a central body is the right thing to do, but as I said, I'm not an expert, and the experts should do what is right. But I don't think that we should stop the Forestry Commission from being properly resolved so that they can do the work they are mandated to do. Coming to NIMOS, I believe that if we want them to do any work, it's not just the 150 million. I'm not an expert, I'm not quite sure about that, but they need more boots on the ground. When Atronsu was being besieged with the illegal miners, 3 excavators were there. We tried to reach out to NIMOS. NIMOS was never able to go to Atronsu. There are other areas where NIMOS, even though they don't have a dedicated number, means and ways have been used to get hold of them. They haven't been able to do anything because, as I said, they are under-resourced. We need to have some shock and awe. NIMOS needs to be going to different areas at the same time to get rid of the environmental terrorists. Time is not on our side. We're on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. Our river bodies, as we speak right now, Chanfans are on them. Why isn't NIMOS doing anything about it? Why can't we have the full army armed forces, Navy, dealing with the existential threat we are facing, because we are not serious. The political will from where I am sitting isn't there.
Very well. Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa, they have been busy on Galamsey and other things, but we're dealing with Galamsey today. Franklin, yeah, so it appears we say the right things, we know what to do, but doing it is a problem. Like Andrew said, driving from Kumasi, he saw illegal miners by the road doing their work. Everybody, once he saw them, a lot of other people in power who have the power to do what they have to do, saw them too. What is the problem? Yes, political will. Why is it difficult to tackle this problem? Yes, acknowledging the fact that finally LI 2462 is being repealed, which is good. But beyond that, why can't we have the political will to deal with the matter?
Well, I'll just say one or two words: vested interests. You know, anytime you find out that there are clearly laid down rules or procedures to solve a problem, and it's not being solved against all the noise that you hear from people in power, indeed, even activists. You ask yourself, what exactly is at play here? Often when you go and look, it's essentially what I'm describing, vested interest. I mean, I am mortified to think that for a very long time, I've not been listening. I've actually not been paying attention to you, but I didn't realize that the Galamsey issue was still ripe, right? I mean, I'm surprised. That
no, you've been busy with lithium and other things.
I've been doing lithium, and I'm worried, and I'm not hearing that. Oh, Galamsey is actually multiplied, right? This is really worrying. As I said, there's only vested interest. It is only people who are benefiting, who will be partaking in this, what I call the illegal trade. So I don't know what word I should use again, any adjective, but I feel very sad, in fact, very sad that this thing is still continuing. I hope that we'll find common sense one of these days to say, look, enough is enough. It appears as if people who are not directly impacted right now believe that, look, they really can't. I don't know what word I should use. I feel very kind of simple. I'm trying to look for an adjective, but anyway, whatever it is, I think the Madam has spoken enough about this matter. People have spoken about the fact that the previous administration almost behaving like what some elements are behaving, some people in government are behaving today. But seriously, I think President Mahama, anyway, I believe that he really wants to stop this stuff, right? And if he wants to stop it, if you look out for those vested interests within the party who are actually having this thing, who are actually behind and making this thing continue as a lucrative business. I worry greatly that I hear a number of MPs, some MPs have been named. Wasn't this MP that was said to have visited some land that he thought belonged to his parents or something? And all of a sudden, I think he was freed not long ago. But look, apart from vested interest, I don't know what else I can tell you. If it is not, if you can repeal the laws, you can repeal all the laws you want, but if you don't follow it up with, should I call it a real action, I don't think these things will. I don't think any of these things can be solved any moment from now. I don't know, but seriously, the president must have his team. The team should wake up and start doing some serious work. I think maybe what can be done is to maybe we should just have a KPIs for the sector minister and the 9 most people and all of that. If they don't get these things done within a certain period, then we can begin to question them and ask them to probably leave their positions or leave their work. Otherwise, what are we really doing? I mean, I don't understand what we are doing.
It does appear that where there's community action, they make some progress. So, yes, how can we encourage more communities to stand for their rights and see if they can, I won't say confront the illegal miners, but work to ensure that illegal mining activities don't go on in their communities? Is there a way we can do? Because the few examples we have, as Awula said, I mean, those communities have done well with their chiefs, etc., to drive out galamseyers. And they are the same community people. So once they come at you, you know you will not succeed. What can we do to multiply or replicate such examples across the board?
Well, I can understand why community involvement is key, because obviously you can't have a strategy from Accra and hope that once you land in the community, it will all start working. I mean, Madam Wola has actually mentioned some examples, and I think I saw them as well. People went into an area and they were almost lynched, right? So I think community involvement is key. But at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what do we really want for ourselves? I mean, I think that question is paramount. Apart from having community involvement, and I hear chiefs are also now asking for some empowerment to be able to fight galamsey. And I ask myself, what exact empowerment do they want? Apart from they being part of a system that can fight it. Maybe what they mean is that, look, if NIMOS wants to go into an area, or if if the government has set up some sort of anti-mining, illegal mining, should I call them, forces, before they go in, they must actually have word with the community. And I think that approach makes a lot of sense. I don't know about this community that Madam Ewola mentions, but I think we should steer it and then find out how best to solve this matter. Otherwise, look, we would all be run over very soon. And I just don't understand. I mean, an intelligent state like this should not, well, we pretend to be intelligent, by the way. An intelligent state today should not be countenancing the things we are discussing.
Very well.
Seriously,
great.
I don't know.
Yes, Richard, a quick one. On the paramilitary status thing, you are a security consultant. You deal with matters like this. What do we do? Do we allow Forestry Commission to have that status because they are in the forest? They ensure that the forest is safe, clean, etc. Or you think that another body is already equipped to deal with this, so we don't risk, duplicating functions and militarizing a lot of our bodies, which in the end may be counterproductive? What do you think? What will you suggest?
Before NIMOS was formed, and because of the prehistorical background and the issues Operation Vanguard had, empowering the Forestry Commission law enforcement officers or the task force came up for a discussion. Some school of thought believe that some operational teams should be added to them and some level of capacity should be built. Then there was another school of thought that says that let's set up NIMOS predominantly led by military officers. Then there was the last school of thought that says that let's have the IGP special operational team on the ground so that they could complement one another. And so you realize that when the new government came in, when the NDC government came in, IGP Yohanun set up a task force and they were into the activities of preventing galamsey activities. And because of resource mobilization and distribution of same, the second school of thought that says that let's put all together so that we can have a unified front, which is NIMOS, that they can have access to all the resources and be able to do the good job. We came to that conclusion. So that is what it is. If that discussion of the forest task force being empowered, we will need to look at it again, because when it comes to setting up a task force, there are a lot of things that goes into considerations. And even the background, one of the core ones is the background of those we are calling forestry task force and the nature of activities and what they really wanted to do. Other than that, we might be complicating things and we might be creating more problems instead of resolving it. Having said that, whatever we will do to ensure that we take good care of our forests and make sure the forests are preserved and the environmental terrorism going on is curtailed, is a laudable strategy. So I believe the powers that be will have to look at it again. But from where I see, they will need to weigh it against the risk assessment and best practices and to benchmark the laneway that will give us a comparative cost advantage and the added value to what we are doing.
Very well. So just taking the last round on just the way forward. LI has been repealed. A few things are happening. People say not enough commitment, political commitment is, or will or commitment is shown in the fight. What else can we be doing to rid our environment of these environmental terrorists? And what should government be? Because people think that we know the people, we see them. Why can't we just move in there and deal with the problem? What is the problem? What is the way forward, Hamza?
One of the reasons why we just couldn't move into our forest reserves and deal with the people was the issue of ascertaining who in the first place had a legitimate license to mine. Because we were still under the dictates of LI 2462. So you would see people mining in forest reserves, but it does not mean that NIMOs would be backed by law to take them out just because they are found mining in forest reserves, when they were given licenses under the previous regime, under a certain licensing regime. And so that point needs to be made. That is the reason why I was a little bit concerned when Owula indicated that the repeal of LI 2462 is not significant in terms of the fight against illegal mining.
It's good, but more needs to be done.
Yes, but I also heard her quite clearly, because she also raised issues about the timing of the repeal of the law. And you see, I think that sometimes when you are under dictatorial tendencies for a very long time, even the citizens themselves begin to lose sight of the very significance of stakeholder consultations, even after winning an election on the ticket of the promises you made. We saw what happened in this country, especially in relation to the domestic debt exchange program, when many stakeholder civil society organizations were up in arms, indicating that government should resist the temptation to implement such a policy. The government decided to proceed with the DDEP.
It was a bitter pill, necessary.
That was what the government said. The government used power. In the case of Momo Tax 2, many of us, including civil society organizations, rose to the call and said that government should not go on that tangent. The government failed to listen and proceeded to pass that levy. So I think that after being exposed to that level of governance, because the NPP under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, they were operating on the basis that they had won the mandate of the people in an election. So they were given the tacit approval to implement any policy that they were convinced was in the interest of the Republic of Ghana, without recourse to the very people who gave them their mandate. And when I listen to the likes of Owula, sometimes I get the temptation that they wanted the NDC government to exhibit such traits, because we had promised that we would repeal LI 2462, and we had won power, and there were objections within the state. NDC has never.
The truth really is that everybody expected that once you came.
Not everybody.
No, a lot of people expected that once you came, that law would be repealed.
That is why I'm responding to this issue.
But
even the NDC was convinced.
We saw an amendment, and that wasn't what we were told.
Even the NDC was convinced that upon assumption of office, that law had to go. But when you are eventually sworn into power, no matter how minute the descent to such a position is, a responsible government in a democracy ought to listen.
So the listening led to the amendment?
So no, when we listened, there were compromises, and there were many who were calling for repeal. There was a need for us to engage. And the civil society, they were brought on board. And finally, their side, in line with the earlier promise the NDC government made, won. And so you should not be asking questions as to why now, when you know.
No, the point is that promises breed expectation.
And you see,
so if you tell me when you come,
their expectation.
I'm just saying, when you tell me that you will do A, B, and C, when I allow you, and you are delaying beyond what I expect, I have to raise questions.
I am not saying that they are not the questions they are raising are not legitimate. Even my brother here raised issue with the timing. I am simply telling you that because she asked why the delay, and in my earlier submission I presented to you the factors that probably occasioned that delay. And I said that unless of course people want us to now behave like the previous regime, simply because we have things spelled out in our manifesto promise, even at this critical moment, if the Ghanaian people are not convinced that we should go that way, the NDC would be adamant and say that since we promised, we are doing so. Who will do so? Is that the kind of governance we want? Absolutely not. And that's why I'm saying that people should rather respect the position of the government and see that this is a government that would even entertain what we deem as the minutest of dissent when it comes to policy. And you see, this is also important. And my brother made the point that, look, NDC had no plan, yet proceeded to make references to our 120-day promise and the pledge to repeal LI 2462. Didn't that constitute a plan when it comes to the issue of the forest conservation that you were complaining about? That was a plan. But there was issues with the implementation of it. So you cannot say that there was no plan, especially when consultations are strange to the politics of the NPP, like I indicated in the case of Mobo Levy and that of the DDAP. And you see, Selim, this also is important. Ola also says that both governments have failed. That is palpable falsehood. You simply cannot liken an 8-year failure to less than 1 year in government. That is an 8-year failure under the New Patriotic Party and less than 1 year in government under the National Democratic Congress. When it is clear.
Are we saying that a 1-year-old government cannot fail at something?
We have a 4-year mandate. We have not failed. And that's the point.
No, I'm just asking a general question.
This on one breath, she's commended government for eventually getting this thing done. That tells you that there's a significant difference. And this is a government that is still working on the issue of illegal mining. She has made references to NIMOS and their operations. She has seen the Forestry Commission today on the ground like never before in the last 8 years. She has seen, for the first time, civil society organizations being partners as far as the fight against illegal mining is concerned. Not long ago, His Excellency President Mahama engaged all stakeholders in the mining sector, including civil society organizations, at the presidency. Did we see that in the last 8 years? Unveiled government plan, gave them an opportunity to critique it. In fact, in that particular meeting, the Ghana Journalists Association president got up and agreed that based on what they have been presented to, he can now understand why government should not be looking at the declaration of a state of emergency. Many other civil society organizations in that particular meeting indicated that government should hasten slowly.
Yes.
So, on the declaration of a state of emergency. This is important.
Yes, but so it's important. But it is not. Yeah. So everything is important. Yes. When Hamza is talking, everything. When Hamza is talking, everything is important. Yes. So beyond this, we still have illegal mining going on.
Yes.
What do we do next?
You see, that is why we are saying that it will be unfair to expect this government to deal with all issues of illegal mining under 1 year. We have shown commitment in various forms, and these are the commitments I am enumerating. And even as a government, we are clear. We know that because of how deep the issue of illegal mining is and how pervasive it has been in the years, over the years, it will be difficult for us to confront it fully in a matter of a year.
Very well.
People must begin judging us going forward. And so that is why I have a problem with the outright condemnation that both governments have failed. So
the stability levels are not improving.
What are they canvassing for today?
No, but at least you are still in power. So there's hope of salvaging. There's still hope of salvaging the situation.
We have to be careful with some of the commentaries we run.
Yes, so I'm saying that how do we get better? The stability levels are not improving. As far as we know.
You see, that was another palpable falsehood. Indeed.
From the Ghana Water Company?
No, not from the Ghana Water Company, from them.
No, it was 14,000, it became 90,000.
Indicated that in terms of the stability levels, some water bodies have improved. Is that not the case? Some have worsened. So it is not fair
to lump them all together.
Lump everything together and
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Exactly. So this is a government that has shown transparency as far as the issue of illegal mining is concerned, and unmatched commitment if compared to any other government we've had under the 1992 Constitution.
Very well.
Under the 1992.
What's the way forward? What should we be doing? LI 2462
there have been a number of things that has been said that I need to correct.
So to do that correction quickly, then we'll make progress.
Look, Hamza, you campaign on change. And whenever you are confronted with a change, you visit the past. Now, as I said,
but shouldn't you know where we are coming from?
no,
So we chat.
yes, but madness is saying, it is the definition of madness, saying that we have to be consistently wrong to be right. We have been punished. It's for this reason why we are in opposition. Do you know how painful it is to be in opposition? We have been punished for it. And you promised that you had the magic to deal with it. Deal with that problem. And you keep going to the past, how past government have not listened. At least we are all about 40 years now. I was in tertiary education in the 1998-99. When you brought the cost sharing, push it down our throat. Throughout the country, all tertiary students say no. You implemented it anyway. When you were empowered then, you were giving people identification card at the seat of the presidency. Move from there. Your party move from there. Your party have reduced this country to international embarrassment. Your failure have led to Dumso now being part of both Oxford and Cambridge dictionary. All these things stop visiting the past. There is a law we can say in the past. But today, what we want
but with
is
specific
what
reference
you
to
promise.
the matter under discussion.
Let's deal with this. So he shouldn't be visiting the past.
No, but I'm saying that
a lot of things to say to him in the past.
No, but
At least
those things should be relevant.
We have
there's relevance. You know, there's relevance.
Yes, but we have decency to admit that we've got certain things wrong.
Yeah, but I'm saying
like
that
the E-levy, we have admitted we had it wrong. And we made it clear in our manifesto that when we come, we're going to repeat it. So it's not something new that you have done. All that you have done is low-hanging fruit. You have marketed something as an existential threat. And you promise change. Deal with it.
So what's the way forward?
Past. So for me, let me respond to my good friend. He's actually my brother.
Yes.
In fact, when I have something negative to say about members of his party, it's like throwing blow on myself. Because I know at the end of the day, some of them will.
So just deal with the issue.
All that I need to do, he got the definition of politics wrong. I just want to give him that definition. I want to correct him. You see, politics is, especially it's applicable to him in his case. Politics is the hypocrisy of being with somebody for 7 years. You see nothing wrong and you say nothing wrong. Politics is the hypocrisy of just living for 1 year and you see a lot of things wrong, including Galamsey.
And it's not a master science,
as
he quoted.
And the politics for
as he quoted.
Is a hypocrisy of people campaigning that is an existential threat for 12 years. They have not been able to deal with it, and you see nothing wrong, and there's a need to even praise it. That's the hypocrisy of it.
So that's the definition of politics.
Yes, that's the definition.
No master science.
And I must say that
and the hypocrisy as a definition is what you are practicing too.
It's
defining politics. You are saying that politics is hypocrisy.
So
you are practicing a hypocrisy too.
Let me explain. So, but I must commend you. I'm meeting you for the first time, but I like you. The kind of question you have asked him actually exposed the hypocrisy in him.
In the definition.
And the experts have come to say so much. So, and it boils down to the NDC. For them, they are like a typical student. When they get A, when they after an examination, when they are awarded A, they say they have gotten A.
If they finish,
but when they get A, they have given them A.
Well. So what's the way forward?
So for me,
give me two things we can do
when
to
we were in
improve the
opposition,
situation.
I've always seen that.
So you're also going to the past.
Galamsey,
I want us to move forward.
No, Galamsey is a very important thing. And we need to leave the politics aside. And together we'll resolve it. I understood Brazil had this problem. South Africa had that problem. They have money to resolve it. So far, what the government is offering now is not helping. The TBT level, as they said, is going up in some waters. He wants to say some waters.
But that's a fact, really. Some waters, they said it's improved.
But why is it going in some waters?
No, because it's maybe...
It's a point of failure. And then we have to tell Ghana Water Company, the proposed tariffs increase and the tariff that we have already suffered, because they were pointed to Galamsey activity. So are they calling us? Or why are they increasing our tariffs? The Ghana Water Company will need to listen to the government that there's no problem. And therefore, there's no need for tariff increment.
They have said there's no problem.
And Ghanaians should resist. Oh no, he said they have achieved some success.
Yes, some success.
Yes. So why, if they are achieving success, why is it the need to increase our tariffs?
But haven't we increased tariffs every time?
they claim it's because of the turbidity level of water is high. And therefore, refining water for us is a problem. So the tariffs cannot be increased because their basis of justification is the cost of producing those water as a result of galamsey. So for me, the way forward, let's learn from other people's experience. Marginals is consistently doing the same and expecting different results. It's not like they're a new team. They had the opportunity to deal with this problem before. And the first time of President Mahama, was he able to solve it? So if you market it as Kufa, so for me, it's a collective effort. Every well-meaning Ghanaian, we need to put politics aside and come together to find a particular solution. And we need a team at least that have a vision. So far, when they were talking about this state of emergency, President Mahama's statement actually depresses me because he said
a lot of things have depressed you this morning.
Yes, he said the military has been tied elsewhere. So meaning that we don't even have the capacity to declare state of emergency if it is needed. So that depressed me. So let's go to the South Africans and the Brazilians to see what has worked for them. And how can we adapt that to fit our situation?
Very well. Andrew, your final words on this. The way forward, what must we be doing?
So very, very disappointing that my learned friend would come and say that
the definition.
A quoted definition.
No, the definition is his own definition for you.
Yeah, but I didn't quote. He can't. So when I'm quoting, what's called academically, and you are a lecturer. And
it's an academic.
Yeah, and it's academic. So when I'm quoting, no, this is not politics. People are listening. You understand? And this is not what he's doing. Is not politics.
Okay.
Because people are listening. We are 7 people. You understand? So it's very disappointing. That academic. When I'm quoting. I'm not saying this is Andrew Piadanquest's definition of politics.
The master science.
Yes, I'm quoting.
Let's hear it again.
So
politics, writing, yes.
According to Aristotle, and he ought to note this.
Okay.
According to Aristotle, is the master science,
yes,
which uses all the other sciences for just 2 purposes. So listen, Prof. You understand? To build a strong state, and to take care of the welfare of your citizens. Now, 2, I started doing political communication in 2021. I started doing political communication in 2021. I'm a practicing lawyer.
Yeah, sure.
Now, and there are so many videos of myself.
Yeah.
You understand? Disagreeing with a lot of things. And I'm not a politician like he himself. Yeah, you understand?
It's a lecturer and a practicing lawyer.
Yeah, he's a politician. I'm not like him. Because they assume that because you are an MPP or in a party, then you ought to agree with everything. Listen, my father was a very prominent CPP man. My house is a very prominent CPP family. There are elements in the NDC, those of them who came from the CPP, that have asked me that they can't believe that Matia Padakw's son was a member of the NPP or believes in the UP. I love them. If you know me from my Chimata days through to tech, I'm not a kind of politician. You understand? I just don't follow like some sheep. You must have your own view, and where your party is wrong, you must have the moral obligation. In fact, you must show your patriotic sense
to point it out to them.
So I take so he doesn't know me.
Very well. But you are friends. They're your friends. So but the friends
don't know me.
Friends don't know
and
them.
If you knew me, you know. So now let me turn the way forward. I think the law is very clear. The manual knows that. Article 8.7 says clearly that the minister has the power to revoke licenses where it's in the interest of the state to do so. So I believe that immediately, because of the making nature of this whole thing, the first step ought to have been rely on this law and revoke a lot of licenses. You understand? Then do an audit. Because the problem is that there's so much, you don't even know, because there are different kinds of mining licenses. There are prospecting licenses. People are using prospecting licenses. And you understand? Do a critical audit of all the licenses. And then, you understand? And then, again, look at the regime. I feel that the punishment regime is still very lax. We believe that the punishment should be as high as life imprisonment. You understand? Because of the nature of the hazard with, and then when it comes to the issue of the Forestry Commission, and I'm also a forester. I'm a professional forester.
I see.
Yeah, I did my first degree in renewable natural resource management. They make them wear some uniform like that.
Green, yeah.
What's the essence? The essence is to deter people. So why don't you add some small
powers to them?
Militarize them. Because, you see, because of the nature of the consequence of our negligence, of Nanado's negligence, in this Galamsey issue. In fact, the fact that he forwarded it, the people have amassed weapons. So right now, it's not just a simple matter of allowing the police. The police will run away because the weapons the guys are to the extent that Naimos boss, a full kennel, had to be chased from him. You understand? So and I think that's the basis for the call that a state of emergency should be called. So you treat it like a war being waged on Ghana. Deal with it as if it's a war. Clear them, and when you've cleared them, then you make sure you put in place the structures, you enforce the system so that they can going forward enforce it. I think the third bit of it is a restoration, because the water bodies have been destroyed, forest reserves have been made wasteland. How do we restore them? I think there's a whole debate about whether it's dechemicalization or detoxing, but some form of step ought to be taken to restore what's called
the civil society groups talk about the Tree for Life program, targeting forest reserves.
And then let me add, you see the Tree for Life. You know what? Over the years, when you're doing those tree planting, we're planting your year and oranges. It's a basic understanding of forestry. Will tell you that your year and oranges and agric products, they don't sequestrate any carbon. They're experts there. You have trees like Asamfana, that do proper sequestration. So you see, it's just now was all about do something to represent something. No commitment. Let's show real commitment and let's do proper what's called.
You have the final word on this. The way forward.
I would say that the way forward, first of all, when you come to the Forestry Commission, they are mandated to take care of our forests. So let's equip them and let them have all the resources they need to be able to protect our forest reserves. Because mind you, it's not just armed environmental terrorists. We also have the loggers who are also armed. So let's give them what they're asking for. Let them protect our forests and forest reserves, and then let NAMOS protect the rest of the landscape. You see, we have to understand the magnitude of the problem. It's like you have about 2,000 fires raging. You can't just have one fire engine going. So let the Forestry Commission do what they've been mandated to do with all the tools they've asked for. And then there should be a possibility for them to ask for reinforcement where necessary. And let NAMOS be well equipped to deal with the rest of the problems, because it's I don't even know where to find the words. And let's also be very, very clear. And I'll repeat it and I mean it. We face an existential threat. There's a war going on, and that's why we ask for a targeted state of emergency. There's a war going on against environmental terrorism. Even in wartime, when we poison the source of water, it's a war crime. As we speak, our water bodies are being poisoned. So I don't say it lightly. My party is Ghana, and what we are interested in is the welfare of Ghana. If my words come out as harsh, apologies. But the important thing is that we should all put party considerations aside and look to the good of Ghana. We face an environmental catastrophe. We are being poisoned. Our landscape is being destroyed. The mercury that ends up in the soil is not going to go in one day. It's going to take some time to go. So if we, this generation, have sat there and taken into consideration that what are we leaving for our children? If our ancestors had been as irresponsible as we have been, we wouldn't have come to meet any forest reserves or any beautiful water bodies. A lot of us claim to be churchgoers. We have been mandated to take care of the environment. Let's do it. Let's put parties aside, and going into 2026, let's put the interest of Ghana at heart. Give the Forestry Commission what it needs to take care of the environmental terrorists, including the loggers, and resource NAMOS. And let's drop all charges against the activists in Atronsu. Because even as I speak, they are under siege. And if you don't do that, you are not inviting community engagement in the fight against illegal mining, where the illegal miners walk free and the activists are rather intimidated and pursued by the police. Let's drop the charges against the Atronsu activists and let the police call an investigation to find out why the activists were arrested whilst the illegal miners are walking free and were able to mine even last night. And then let's look at the example in Jema, in the Western North region, in the Atiwa district, and let's ensure that we use what is happening there as a pilot for the rest of Ghana. Thank you very much.
Very well. Thanks so much. So we'll take a short break. Yes, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll visit the discussion on the lithium agreement. Is Ghana being shortchanged? What has changed between the old agreement and the new one that has been laid before Parliament now? Is there anything in particular we want as Ghanaians from this? We'll look at all of that when we return. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. Don't go away.
This Christmas Eve, skip the ordinary and step into the extraordinary. Welcome to the Situation All-White Party 2025, where the music never stops, the energy never drops, and the fun never ends. Celebrating grand style with great music, irresistible food, and an atmosphere that screams good vibes only. Date 24th December 2025. Venue Good Park near the Accra Mall. Time 8 p.m. till late. Dress code, it's an all-white affair. Get ready for electrifying live performances from Kofi Kinata, Perez Music, Inchin Chin Band, and DJ Mingle. Your best all-white fit. Bring your dancing shoes and let's light up the night together. Book your tables now. Call 0205-973-973 or 0558-973-973. It's Christmas Eve. Don't miss it. The Situation All-White Party 2025 is powered by Channel 1 TV and 97.3 City FM, and it's proudly sponsored by EcoBank, Bethel Logistics, and Hallmark Cafe, and supported by Oswald Investments Limited, Verb du Vernet, and Logistics Movers.
DJ, bring the tune back again. Shock the fans, so I see Franco from Guess will kick that.
Behind every closed door, a secret is waiting to explode.
Always been regarded as a useful and a sound party person. So I gather there's a fair chance of me making the office, provided we don't get into trouble. So don't start any trouble with the police.
A Detective Calls, an intriguing stage play brought to life on television, where every clue matters and every character is a potential suspect.
About 2 hours ago, a young woman died at the police hospital.
This will take only the service of a fierce and yielding and sharp as steel detective to uncover the truth behind this web of lies and betrayal.
And so, you used the power you had as the daughter of a good customer and also that of a powerful, politically connected man in the town to punish the girl.
Why didn't you come to me when you realized you were in such a mess? Because you are not the kind of father a chap could come to when they are in trouble. That's why.
Grow from Image Bureau Productions. A Detective Calls premieres on Christmas Day at 1 p.m.
All right, you're welcome back. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We have the final discussion or matter to deal with, and that's in relation to the lithium agreement. This agreement has suffered a few things here and there. It was laid before Parliament, was it in 2023 or so, but could not have its report adopted for various reasons. Now that Parliament elapsed, a new Parliament has come, and it's presented another or a revised agreement, and civil society again says no, this cannot be the case. A few things have changed and they actually worse, so we won't agree. Take it back and go look at it. There was back and forth. Eventually, that particular agreement laid before Parliament by this government was withdrawn. They've looked at it, done a few things to it. They said they've done broader consultation, and they brought it back to Parliament. We don't know what civil society thinks. But Imani, Africa is one of those groups, those civil society organizations speaking on the matter and leading the discussion. They've met the Select Committee on Environment chaired by Collins Dada. They've met the speaker. They've met all the people who matter in this space. Franklin Kujo, fortunately, is on the program. So Franklin, yes, the lithium agreement. The question is whether it's a better deal as we have it now. It's a better deal for Ghana or it's worse than before. Now you've had the benefit of looking at the agreements. Talk to us about what differences exist between the old one that was presented to Parliament by the previous regime and this one that has been presented, for which there were a few difficulties they took out, and if indeed some changes have now been effected in this particular one laid before Parliament this week.
Well, thank you very much, Solomon. I think the last time the conversation on lithium came up, during the last administration, we were told that they had almost reached an agreement with the investor, in this case the mining company, to actually agree on a 10% royalty for that year, and then also ensure that, well, 10% royalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time that was just a major issue. We at the time said no. We think that, look, beyond the 10%, you should actually do feasibility studies on your own so that you can vet your own numbers, independently verify your own numbers against what the company was providing you. But lithium was such an interesting mineral that, should I call it, it's a green mineral, and its chemical properties are such that they have variations of it. Like I said, the higher grade you get, the more price, the higher value you're able to command. So we disagreed with Abu at the time, Abu Jidapa at the time, but we said, look, just coming to tell us 10% royalties, it's not enough. We should have a proper conversations about the feasibility study of our own, so that we also independently verify our own numbers. It is the only way, it is the only serious way you can begin to have a conversation about even value addition. Because don't forget, at the time, I don't think we were even considering processing. Don't forget that the lithium value thrives on the ability to process. That's why China processes 90% of all lithium in the world. I mean, all rare earth minerals in the world, because they've developed the capacity and they are good at it. That's why Trump had to backtrack, because he realized that, look, when he says he's going to fight President Xi on this issue of tariffs, once she decided that, look, we were withdrawing the export of rare earth minerals, Trump backed down, because he knows that America has not got the capacity.
Well, Franklin's line is frozen. Yes.
Really?
Yes. Okay. So you're back now. Yes. Yes, you are back now.
Expecting lithium must be interested in also the value addition. For too long, we've always mined minerals, and then we don't seem to be adding value to them at all. Well, but of course now lithium is in vogue, and we wanted to do that. So on that basis, we some of us disagreed with the previous minister that, look, we don't want this to go and do a proper feasibility studies, so that we can maximize the take that even the people of the area where the lithium was could benefit more than what was being proposed, right? So we were patriots. Well, fast forward, they lose an election, and then the new administration comes to power, and then all we hear is that, we want to make sure that the terms are more favorable to the investor than before. I mean, essentially, that's the way I'm putting it, right? Because the minister started off with saying, they want to give the company should pay about 5% royalty. And we're like, why are you taking us back? That's how the conversation began. I said, why are you taking us back? Initially, he said that, he's empowered by the law, and that he doesn't have further powers to negotiate probably on a sliding scale, a higher, if you like, royalty, more or less. Well, he came back and said, well, we told him that, look, you have power, because there's Act 900, which gives you regulatory power to actually get on with that. So he said, okay, well, he's going to do that. He had a lot of, there were some sort of, should I call it, stakeholder conversations, and we were part of that. But all of a sudden, what we've heard now is that, well, okay, look, he's accepted the fact that he believes that the sliding scale royalty system is the best. And so he's setting up a maximum rate of about 12%. That's what is in Parliament right now. That's what we hear. And he's setting a higher rate of about 12%, but he's starting off at a rate of 7%, given the terms of things. And we think that, well, we agree that, look, we thank him for accepting the fact that it is better to determine the royalty. I mean, more like a seesaw process, which is essentially the sliding scale method. So we agree with him that the 12% maximum is fine. We agree with that, but we still think that the minister should. I would think he hasn't served us properly by suggesting that he want to start on the basis of a 7%. Don't forget, the minister yesterday on Joy, I think he was speaking to a number of journalists, and he did say that, look, his approach is that once lithium prices go higher, then eventually we'll be able to get a higher royalty rate. But the question we ask is that, why are you starting off from 7 when your predecessor started off with 10, when the price of lithium at the time was $800? By 2024, when the company was ready to sign with the rest of Ghana, the price of lithium was $800. The cost of production of an ore per ton of a liter of ore was $610, according to the company's own figures. This is not our figures. Now, that meant that at the time they were willing to sign for 10% royalty, their profit margin was going to be just about less than actually 20%. As we speak, they projected this year lithium price of about $1,600. But currently, lithium prices are about $1,200 per ton. Their cost is still $610. So it tells you that it tells you that satisfied the notion that look, prices can rise and fall. So if the price right now makes it easier for them to make a 45% profit margin, why are you then giving them further concessions on royalty from 10 to 7? Are you getting the argument? I mean, this is actually the basis of the argument.
So frankly, if I'm hearing you right, yes, surely you have a problem with the 7% royalty because it used to be 10, came to 5, and civil society action, etc., is pushed it to 7. Another thing the government has considered or accepted from civil society is to adopt the sliding scale royalty system. So am I hearing you to say that yes, the sliding scale royalty, good one, but instead of starting off from 7%, start off from where your predecessor left it at 10%. So sliding scale plus 10%. Is that your argument?
Exactly. And again, let me just add one more example. Because the minister made mention of figures yesterday, suggesting that was the price. Look, he's saying that as of the time the company was willing to sign, the price of lithium was $3,000. It was not $3,000. It was not. It was actually $800. That was the price of lithium at the time they were willing to sign. And now he goes ahead and uses that figure, to now initiate his own scale. And his scale is that if the lithium price is up to $1,005, his royalty starts from 5%. It doesn't make mathematical sense. I mean, first of all, those figures are wrong. And if lithium price, as you're saying, is $1,200 today with a 45% margin, why are you giving them further concessions on that one? And by the way, our argument is not just about the royalty. And I think people, maybe we've been too fixated on the royalty. We're also saying that the company says in its own books, I don't know whether people have read it. The company says that what they want to do in processing, they are not even sure. All they want to do is that they want to do some scoping method, like hang around and see whether look, processing is actually our biggest game. We should focus on that, make sure that we conduct a proper feasibility study of our own, determine the values, and it's a 12-year cycle, by the way, for a mine, of a lithium mine, 12 years. We are not saying that the prices should be static. Nobody is saying that. The prices could go up. In fact, the carbonates of lithium could, if you don't take care, could go up to probably sometimes $100,000. And then what? You sit back and say, oh, I have a sliding scale, okay, to help me. Then what? Then you lose on processing as well. We think that if the argument the minister is making is sedative to go by, it's like suggesting to Malcolms or the MTNs or those who are that, even though they are making about 18% profit today, they should actually come for more concessions so that they can make maybe 45% profit. If every company in Ghana was making 45% profit, and then they wanted, they're supposed to be giving more concessions, I'm sure that the business community will be happy, but the country will collapse. So I think these are the arguments you're making. The president has shown the way, and I like the fact that the president was publicly engaged on this matter. There's one thing I think we can say about him was he is.
Yeah, so Franklin's line is frozen again. We will try and get that done, but I think he had almost finished making his point, and he was just about saying what he liked about the president in terms of his public engagement on the matter. But that's fine. So Franklin Kudjo, president of Imani Africa. Imani has been at the center and front of this lithium discussion. And yes, the minister has made a few concessions. Royalties are 7%, sliding scale as they called for. But they are saying that it could be more. It could have been 10%, still sliding scale, and a few other things. Now, Hamza, I mean, it's difficult to understand why something we are to be getting 10%, the previous government did, and your government, which we expect to make things better, will now reduce the royalties to 5%. What was the thinking? What went into that?
I think that what went into that had to do with the national interest and the objective of government to ensure that the benefits from that sector is not only reflected in terms of our budgetary allocations, but to a very large extent, even the people on the ground, especially in communities that these mineral resources are found, also take advantage of the economic potential of such investments. And so there's the need for us to appreciate that, in principle, government's position is not different from the position being canvassed by the civil society organizations in terms of their quest to ensure that we get the full benefits from that particular sector. What appears to be the difference has to do with perspective, in the sense that in one hand, government is looking at, for example, ensuring that we are still able, as a result of this investment, to keep employment opportunities open to many of our unemployed youth in that sector. Mind you, I disagree a little bit with the position of Franklin in terms of the pricing. I remember quite clearly that in 2023, when the arrangement was being signed, the prices per ton of lithium was ranging in excess of $2,500 to about $3,000. And any of us we can check that out. It is something that we can confirm. And so that was the pricing window when we were signing the deal. And we signed it with the objective that that investment could throw out many job opportunities for our compatriots in the country. Salom, unfortunately, globally, lithium prices have started getting hit, like going downward. There seems to be that unfortunate hit in terms of sliding pricing.
So it depends on where you stand. So the other view is that it's actually climbing.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And your view is that it's this because of your starting point. You claim it was about. What I mean is, you claim that around 2023 it was around 2,000, 3,000.
Today,
but they are saying that it was around 800. Yeah. So depending on where you stand, it may be reducing or it will be increasing.
But you see, if you are patient with me, you understand the angle I'm coming from. I'm simply trying to provide the rationale behind the necessitation behind the renegotiation, as far as the aspect of the position of government is concerned. And I'm saying that at the time that the MPP signs the agreement, whether sliding downwards or upwards, climbing upwards, the pricing window was between $2,500 to $3,000 per ton. And so there was ample justification and economic viability, even on the part of the investor, to have agreed the 10% without necessarily compromising the ability of the investor to more or less invest and create the enabling environment for Ghana to also take advantage, both in terms of royalties and an opportunity to create employment opportunities for its citizens. Unfortunately, we came in at a time that the prices began receiving a nosedive. From about 3,000, it went down to about $620 per ton before it started climbing again quite recently. So at the time we're within the region of $620 per ton, the company engaged government about the economic viability of the country, of the project. Indeed, many other countries were actually reneging in investing in that sector because of the pricing window, indicating that it was going downward. So there seemed to be some kind of waned interest in investments, not just in Ghana, but many other countries that were considering the possibility of signing similar agreements. So Ghana, this government had an option, either to put on hold the agreement or get it to function, even in the midst of the volatility in terms of pricing. So we had to look at the economic potential of getting our people employed and find a way to get the lithium agreement to kick off. And so that's the reason why we decided to look at where we could cut the overhead costs to still make it economically viable for the investor to operate and be able to throw out jobs for many of our citizens out there. Because you need to understand that economics is not just about how many taxes you are able to get from the investor. But for a government that is concerned about job creation, you also have to be mindful of the job opportunities that such an increment in terms of revenue and raising the production cost, the dire consequences it could also have on your ability to create jobs for the Ghanaian people.
But
so
did the investor or the company complain about the 10% royalties in the previous agreements?
I don't think that they complained because at the time the prices were favorable.
Yeah, I mean now that you renegotiate, you re-engage to bring it to 5 and now 7.
The experiences of the price downfall has informed both government and the company to now adopt, based on the advice given by civil society organizations, to now adopt the sliding scale window of operationalizing the 10% royalties. So what we are simply saying is that if the prices are low, we can go as low as 7 or 5% in terms of royalties. And anytime the prices begin to rise, it will be automatically adjusted. And we could go as more as 12%. That is progressive. That is progressive. And I'm struggling to understand why anybody would deem this as being retrogressive as far as Ghana's interest is concerned. Because we have managed to keep the investments going. We have been able to at least keep the potential of job opportunities for our citizens open. And at the same time, Ghana is positioned to take the needed benefits in terms of royalties anytime that the prices continue to rise. Apart from that, we have also introduced another novelty that the MPP seem not to be talking about, the 1% community development levy. If you look at the previous deal, there was nothing like that. Today we have a 1% community development levy that has been added to this new agreement. That makes it possible for these communities that the mineral is found to have access to 1% community development levy, either to invest in roads, school infrastructure, and other forms of relevant infrastructure that these communities consider relevant. And that is progressive. That is what the renegotiation has offered Ghana, that opportunity.
How about the processing?
And that these funds will not be managed by central government in any case. The objective is that these communities themselves
would manage
these funds and determine areas they need to spend these funds in. We didn't have that. Selon,
how about processing? The issue about processing has come up. I mean, and Franklin's position is that we need to get very interested in getting the ore also processed in Ghana, but it doesn't appear there is any serious
I think that is another layer of discussion we can begin to have. And you see, this is a government that respects the views of civil society organizations, and it can be manifested. You can see it quite clearly, both in terms of the position of the government, in terms of the LI 2462, and the position of the government, even in relation to this renegotiated lithium agreement, and the significant role civil society organizations have played.
How about people who say that instead of doing it and withdrawing it, making you appear indecisive or unsure, you do the consultations before, take their views on board, so that when you present the document now, then it's a document which is all-encompassing, inclusive, and it will not be withdrawn. How about that?
You see, Again, that
because these are two things we have mentioned.
No, you see, yes,
the LI matter and then now this agreement.
No, but the LI matter, we engaged civil society organizations, even on this lithium agreement. I think what was the main issue was the broader nature of the consultations. A few of them were consulted initially. And so when we realized that the education had not gone down as we anticipated, there was the need for a government that is sensitive to concerns of its citizens for us to have pulled the agreement out to broaden the nature of consultations. And that was what we did. It does not mean that we are being indecisive. We are only being sensitive to the needs of the Ghanaian people, and especially civil society organizations. And I think that, Solomon, we need to be commended in that regard. But when it comes to the process, and I think that his call is not different from the call President Mahama has been making, especially when it comes to our extractive industries. Remember that in less than 1 month in office, President Mahama signaled an intention to give Ghanaians the opportunity to play significant roles when it comes to the extractive industry, not just in the lithium sector alone, but gold and other associated extractive industry resources. And so I'm convinced that the government will not take this suggestion lightly, especially about the processing, and we can broaden the scope of the discussion and see how we can all come together to at least find a way of taking full benefits out of this agreement.
Ishak, your side has been very vociferous in questioning the reasoning behind the new agreement. What really are the matters from your side? What are your concerns?
Okay, thank you. I think you've already called out to me, perhaps to excuse from the word depressed. So I'm going to depart from it.
So this one, I'm not depressed.
Yes. When you listen to the minister and you listen to the likes of Hamza, everything they say just defies logic. 10%, 5%, which is better. 7% and 10%, which is better.
But you didn't have the sliding scale at the time. You guys didn't have
just defies logic. When you were there, but when did we even get a sliding scale? It's not the second attempt. So we've already said here, he said they are listening government. But what I realized is that they need to be whipped before they begin to think right. And when you listen to their argument, sometimes I ask myself, on whose side is the government? Are they on the side of the investor? Or they are on the side of the Ghanaian? Because what they have said, the investor couldn't have said their side better than what they are saying. So for this reason that in Ghana, we have to commend them. Look, during our time, we came out, the negotiation arrived. Don't worry, you are intentional.
I'm following. I am following.
You are following me. Thank you. That is important because they don't even listen.
Yes, I'm following you.
So when we were in power, you said it. It wasn't Imani Ghana. You said 10% wasn't good at all. Then you had the opportunity to take over. Then you said 5%. Then you said 5%.
No, Hamza, allow him to flow.
You said 5%.
Hamza, let him flow.
You said
you think that responsibility is different.
Oh, Hamza,
you are part of
a gentleman.
Hamza, you had your turn. Yes.
When you were saying, talking, I was so uncomfortable.
But you listened.
But because I was a gentleman,
exactly.
So
when I speak, he forgets his gentleman.
Why
are you telling on him? No, I'm with you.
So then you took over. Then you said 5%. Our responsibility to hold you accountable and in Ghana, we whipped common sense into you. Then you shift to 7%, and then now agree to a sliding scale. Look, with the investor agreeing to make this movement, that means that they're still economically beneficial to them. Let's keep pushing. They are going to get to the 10%. But with this argument put in place by the NDC, almost doing the investor job for them, it's very unlikely they will move. But then if you look at the totality of this team, I think we are asking too much from them. Because even DSTV, they could not even negotiate. They started it with fanfare, what they were going to give us, At the end of the day, they brought nonsense, stupid extra channel for us to watch. And they said they have won. So this
No, but you have that's not a discussion really. But you have a bigger
there's
you
a
have more
bigger
channels.
problem when it
You
comes to
have more
negotiations.
channels. You have a bigger bouquet. Is that not the
Yes,
case?
but what bouquet? A group of nonsense channel being added, push it down our throat because you were talking about standard of living of Ghanaians that we were paying too much.
No, but you could downgrade yourself.
It doesn't matter. But it was even Tampra. The company made us aware by December is going.
No, but we are not there.
So
yet.
this was but this wasn't what they promised. So if you promise something that you bring nonsense channel, more nonsense channel for us, maybe if I'm subscribing, all that I need is CNN. Then you go and bring the household something, whatever.
No, some people also like that one. So
Well, but that wasn't what you promised. So for me, this team, they are not capable of negotiating. I do understand the concern for unemployed youth. We are all after them having jobs. If what they are promising, the 3-shift system in their 24 hours economy, the concern wouldn't be so much. If we are really shortchanged as a Ghanaian in the lithium sector, there's nothing wrong with leaving it for the meantime. If what you are saying is true, that the prices is going down. So if the prices is going down, we realize that as Ghanaians, we are not going to get so much from it. What happened to future generations? We can leave it for them. Or we leave it at such time that when a competent team is in place, such as the MPP coming in 2028, we can do a better job by negotiating a favorable one. At least
but when
we
you
were
were
able to get
negotiating,
10%.
did you include processing and local transfer of knowledge and all of that in your arrangements?
I have not had the opportunity to look at it totally of what was agreed. But what every Ghanaian logically will agree is that 10% is better than 5%.
Even though this is
10%
sliding.
is better than
7%.
sliding from what to what. These are a group of con men. They just want to use this thing to disagree with that. Me, the percentage, 10%. If it is sliding, slide from 10% upwards. How about that?
Okay.
Let's start from 10%. So for me, if
But
we
I think
can-
that the point, if I heard him right, the point
Yes.
they're making is that
Yes.
royalty is good.
Yeah.
But you don't do the royalties in a way that will constrain the ability of the investor to expand opportunities and, for example,
let the
employ
investor
people.
speak, not the government. Let the investor speak. Listen, stuck on the side of Ghanaians. If you are not prepared to take on the side
But
of the Ghanaians,
creating jobs or making the investor create jobs.
I
is
do
for Ghanaians.
understand all. That's why I put emphasis. The 24 hours economy that they were pushing, that it will provide 3-shift system.
I think you know.
If they really want employment and they think that we believe this lithium deal is not good for the people of Ghana, especially you can't move from 10% to 7%, regardless of sliding scale. And that is where even buying into what he claimed that prices is on the downwards. Because what we have heard from an independent person, he said it actually moved from 800 to 2,000. And the fact that this investor,
2002, he said.
that's what he said. It moved from 800 to 2,000. That's what he
2002,
said.
I think.
You said something different.
No, he said 1,200.
He said 1,200.
Yeah.
Well, 800 to 1,200
For you, it's an
still
improvement,
good enough.
yes.
But you said the opposite. So our argument is even based on accepting what you said. But it's better we... No, you said it.
No, I think the difference between... So your point is that at the time it was negotiated, it was higher. But now it is lower.
But
Imani's point
said
is
no.
that at the time it was negotiated, it was lower.
Yes.
But even
It's going up.
Of disagreement with
yes,
it.
so that's a factual thing we can. I've been trying to dig it out.
But
it's a factual thing we can resolve. Yes.
But in the absence of not ascertaining what it is, I would prefer his what he
Imani,
said than him.
you
He's
don't
more
prefer-
independent minded.
Hamza
This guy is
NDC.
sitting in a political seat. He has every interest to lie to me.
Very
So
well.
I would prefer Imani Ghana. What Imani Ghana is.
Very well.
So the point I'm just saying that the way forward,
Yes.
leave this particular deal, implement your 24 hours economy.
So that when
they will get a
competency
job.
comes-
If we can't get a good deal for Ghana,
We
we
should
leave
leave
it for future generations.
Very well.
Or until such time that there's a competent team, 2028, when Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia take over, we can get a better
Very well.
deal.
Andrew, yes. What do you make of the whole controversy? Withdrawn, now brought back with a few, tweaks here and there.
Yeah, so I think I need to commend Imani for the job they've done. And I need also to state that because of the terms of the provision of Article 257, which says that all minerals in this natural state is for the people of Ghana, and the president shall hold it in trust. then means that there's a fiduciary relationship between the president and the people of Ghana, which then places an obligation on them when they're taking a decision concerning our mineral resources to have as primary
interest
what's the best interest of the citizens of this country. Now, when it comes to how this deal has been handled, I think the problem the minister is having is because of the manner in which he's handled this. But you see, in the first amendment, I think he tried to do a simple amendment by saying that as per law, and that's what brought about the 5%, the 5% issue. In which one can you justify that a reduction from 10% royalty to 5% is better than as in is better? As in, you can justify you can't justify it. But having said that, I think I must then commend him that we, the people of Ghana, haven't given them pressure. He's realized that doesn't have to withdraw and then revisit it. But even in the revisitation, my position still is that to start the sliding scale from 7%, in my opinion, is not in the best interest of Ghana. Because I think Ghana generally, as in we've slacked in how we've utilized our natural resources. Yeah, you understand? It's like we, to the extent that the young people of this country don't believe that we have control over our natural resources. And yet, our natural resources ought to be the basis for our development. And so if we go and take 7%, no, I think if we think we can't maximize benefits, then even apart from the nonsense and those languages you're using, those things, I think I agree with my brother here, that if you think we won't benefit, we are better off
leaving it there,
shelving it at such a time when we are in the better. Or you take Norway, there's a whole discussion about Africa about whether or not our resources are a curse or they are a blessing. I think it's because of the way we sort of negotiate the utilization of our resources. You understand? Yes, the sliding scale, or because for a company that, from what Imani is saying, they are going to make 45%, what's it called, margins. Then you can't be starting the scale from 7%. You can't be starting the scale from 7%.
Great.
For me, start from 10%, but beyond that, I think the 1% levy, excellent. You just have to find a way of managing the fund well. As excellent, the processing, excellent.
Very well.
And I think we haven't also spoken about, in the old regime, they had a 13%, what's called?
Carried interest.
Carried interest.
Yeah, I think there's now 13 plus 6 for MIF, mineral investment, the mineral income and investment
that was
fund.
the old regime.
The new one, I understand. So it's now 19, carried interest 13 plus 6%.
So if we are going to do that, so if Prof had taken, and because he didn't rate,
okay.
So he was basing his argument just on 5 points.
Sorry.
So I don't know why you didn't comment.
Let me hear. Understand? Awula is still on. Awula,
in terms of teaching,
sorry, just 10 seconds on this. Awula, did you follow the discussion? I mean, what's your thinking quickly?
No, I'm the one saying. You are the one saying.
Hello, Awula. Okay, all right. Franklin, yes, good job done. But anything to say in 10 seconds?
Oh, I think that the president has said clearly defined what ought to happen. We must approach this with data, transparency, and clear conversations about what this mineral could mean for us. This is normal, and I think we should take advantage of it.
Very well. Thanks so much, gentlemen and lady. Franklin Kujo, Hamza Suini, Andrew Apia-Dankwa, Ula Sewa you heard earlier, and Ishaq Ibrahim for gracing today's show for us. My name is Selam Adunu. Catch you same time next week. Have a wonderful week. Good afternoon.